Good and fair evening, my friends. Welcome, everyone. So good to see you all. I hope that your week has been well. I know many of us are suffering from absolutely insane heat right now. I swear to God, every time. Just overall, there's so many bots on Kick, it's crazy. What's starting soon? Storytime. It's storytime after all. But it's your girly Pop Lucy. Interesting. Welcome in. K-Babe, Matty, Erin, Milu, Marina, thank you for the resub. I appreciate that. Teresa, Destiny, Jaeger, Sortako, I think, stepped out. And then we have. I think that's everyone. That is everyone. Good to see you all, my friends. So very glad you could join us tonight. For another beautiful night of storytelling. How is everyone faring in this monstrous heat? That's if you're in a hemisphere that is in the midst of summer right now, I suppose. But for those of us where it is summer, it is dreadful at the moment. Come in, grab your seats, fill your mugs. We are on chapter 25 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So, we're getting close to the end. I think we're over 80% of the way through the book. Erin, you're super sick right now. What happened? Why are you sick? What did you do to yourself? Mary Beth, hello, good to see you. Welcome in. Hello. Tim, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the tavern. You've marked us on your map, so you should be able to find your way back. The very next time that you seek a story, welcome in, friends. Grab your seats. As I said, we are in Harry Potter Book 6, The Half-Blood Prince. Gunnar, hello, my friend. How are you feeling? Richard, welcome in. Pull up your seat, my friend. I hope that you're all doing well. Captain Hoodie got you sick. She was sick last. Hey, I'm still sick. It's not me. Heat is finally breaking here. It sounds like Marina's enjoying the heat at least. I'm happy that someone is. The lady and I are holed up like moles in the bottom of a burrow, trying not to let the sun touch us like ancient but very fragile vampires. I'm above ground, and it's not bad to say. Damn right. Castle got us all sick from 2 weeks ago. That means that by chain effect, it's Everett's fault. So we can blame him because he's not home right now. So we can just blame it all on Everett. Yeah, I mean, look. I have to show up and do my job. I have to come out here and tell you all stories. It wouldn't be fair of me not to. Being congested is the worst. Absolutely the worst, Erin. Goblins, hello. First time I'm here during the opening credits. Indeed it is. It's been a while. How is sounding everywhere? Is the audio good for everyone? Can you all hear me? Is the music too loud? How are things? Or maybe has a fever and so does a lot of our friends. It's going around. Yeah, it's just that time of year when the weather is starting to change. You're getting a little bit more, you're getting a little bit more moisture in the air. These things will happen, but it is to be expected. Everett is patient zero. Even my house is starting to catch something. See, when Everett gets back, I'll let him know that he got so sick. He's actually currently on a road trip. He's going back east with his dad, and he's going to go see a friend of his. So, should be good fun. I think Erin, Milu, Feywitch, and possibly Una also collectively drowned me last night. They'll do that. You have to be careful. You have to be careful. Gunnar, thank you for the drink, my friend. I'll raise one to you. About to start 28 decades later. The feature film. So yeah, because what they had 28 days later, 28 weeks later. What is it? What is it? Is it months or years now? Which one's the one that recently came out? Is it 28 decades? 99.8 after my fever reducing meds. Well, that's not too bad. Just make sure you're resting and that you're staying hydrated. Darn right, can't take us anywhere together. We friend the host. We down the host, it's true. 28 days, 28 weeks, 28 years. It's funny, there's a meme where it has 28 days by Sandra Bullock as being the first film in that series. It's 28 days later, 28 weeks later than 28 years. It's very funny. Big Ed, hello. So glad you could join us. Welcome in, my friend. Get your butterbeer. Settle in. So next time I would assume that it would be 28 generations, which would be wild. It would be. And by that point, it's just everybody living a normal life again. Also, I'll not be renaming Hydrate to Drown Matty in Zeus Juice. Yeah, don't do that. You definitely don't want to drown in Zeus Juice. That would be heavily unpleasant. Has Castle told a story about Nick Nevin yet? I don't recognize the name Goblins, so give me a second. Yeah, Zeus Juice sounds like something you wouldn't. It sounds like the worst version of. I have told stories about Hecate and Gerda Kerring, but not specifically about McNevin. Though I don't suppose any of those. I don't suppose any of those stories are still up though. I used to have all sorts of stories up about the fairy courts and the Seelie and unseelie court and the various types of fae from the various places that they come from. People get very defensive about the topic of fairies. You have fairy-like creatures all over the world, but the fae and the fairies are specifically Western Europe. It's like trolls and goblins. Though trolls, goblins, elves, those come from Western Europe. When you go to other places, they are called other things. They're similar, but they're not the same. Your Highness, King Nocalius, raiding in. Hello, welcome in, my friend. Well. Toriel Woodland Elf, welcome. His Highness has joined us. We very graciously. My lord, welcome in. How was the round table in the kingdom? I hope you were all well. We got to give them a toot on the reed horn. I'd forgotten. Such a terrible host. For the raiders, welcome in. 28 minutes later, to all coming in from His Highness's kingdom, welcome. I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a bedtime story. Tonight, it is indeed a time for bedtime stories. Belinda, Ashley, hello, welcome in. So very glad you could join us, loves. Ashley, good to see you. Just stopped in to say hi, and then it's back to rehydrating and resting. It's good, Beard. Just take your time and rest. Don't overdo it. Chester, hello, welcome in. Toriel, welcome in. Duran Verco, welcome. So very glad you could join us, and thank you both for the follows, Chester and Toriel. So very glad you could join us, my friends. You have entered a tavern at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. I thank His Highness for bringing his subjects to our humble establishment, and I hope that you will enjoy. We're literally just starting. So I appreciate you all for dropping in. For any of you who do, please grab a seat, fill a mug. The regulars will keep you occupied when my head is down. And join us for the story. We're on chapter 25 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Yes, Nick Deputy is Scottish folklore. More often called Gear Morel, I think, is the other name. Sometimes referred to as Hecate. There are a lot of these figures that cross over. So you end up with a lot of compounding in the stories where there's a lot of confusion about what is what. You too, Frost. 104 is no joke. It was 102 here today. So please make sure you're taking care of yourself and rest. The great Kring Notkel sent me a raven with attached a note to a scrawny leg saying I had to stop by this here fine tavern. Excellent recommendation, I must say. Chester Bow said, Chester, it's lovely to have you. Please, grab your seat, fill your mug. We are just about to begin. It was absolutely awful out today. Actually, it was indeed. It was dreadful. Outside, rating it a 2 out of 10 for today. Would not recommend. Would not recommend. 2 stars. Outside gets 2 stars for today. Alright, friends, companions, settle down, grab your seats. It is now time for stories to begin. We are on chapter 25. The Seer Overheard. Thank you kindly, Chester. Appreciate you for that. The fact that Harry Potter was going out with Ginny Weasley seemed to interest a great number of people, most of them girls. Yet Harry found himself newly and happily impervious to gossip for the next few weeks. After all, it made a very nice change to be talked about because of something that was making him happier than he could remember being for a very long time, rather than because he had been involved in horrific scenes of dark magic.
You'd think people would have better things to gossip about,
said Ginny as they sat on the common room floor, leaning against Harry's leg and reading the Daily Prophet.
3 Dementor attacks in a week, and all Romilda Vane does is ask me if it's true you've got a hypocrite tattooed across your chest.
Ron and Hermione both roared with laughter. Harry ignored them.
What did you tell her? I told her it's a Hungarian horntail,
said Ginny, turning the page of the newspaper idly.
Much more macho.
Thanks, said Harry, grinning.
And what did you tell her Ron's got? A pygmy puff, but I didn't say where.
Ron scowled as Hermione rolled around laughing. Watch it, he said, pointing warningly at Harry and Ginny. Just because I've given my permission doesn't mean I can't withdraw it.
Your permission?
Scoffed Ginny.
Since when did you give me permission to do anything? Anyway, you said yourself you'd rather it was Harry than Michael or Dean.
Yeah, I would, said Ron grudgingly. And just as long as you don't start snogging each other in public.
You filthy hypocrite. What about you and Lavender thrashing about like a pair of eels all over the place?
The language in this chapter is absolutely colourful. Cut out your sinuses. I love being dramatic. It brings me joy. I have a flair for the drama as well, Erin. I enjoy it a bit. Outside right now is hoodies and capris. I love it. You and Matty are up in Canada. It's always a bit cold in Canada. It's all right, Erin. We love you for it. Well, certain parts of Canada. Not always, but we'll say usually. I rather like drinking my water, not breathing it. Yeah, fair enough. We do. Okay, babe. Thank you so much for following. We do. We're all feeling much better. The lady and I are still a bit sniffled, but otherwise, we're completely on the mend. Yeah, it's been stupid hot this summer. We got 105 to 100. That's it's too hot. It's too hot. No, people aren't made to live in that. Lindsay, love, hello. Thank you for the rose. So very glad that you could drop in. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. I mean, I'm a popsinady. Yes, we're feeling much better, and I could be more grateful for it. The boy was still a little bit ill when he left. He's out on a road trip, but I presume by the time he'll get back, he'll be better. Should be, anyways. I love those steps. I know, Marina. I am so happy that you are feeling well in the heat, because the rest of us, your happiness will have to thrive on symbiotically, vicariously, because the rest of us are dying. We don't even want to talk about how hot and humid it is in Texas right now. No, again, there's a reason why I do not live in Texas. The one thing I do not care about, I care for in Texas, is the heat and humidity. As I can't live in Tennessee, can't live in Louisiana, can't live in Alabama, can't live in Georgia, can't live in the Carolinas because it's too damn hot and humid. I'm not built for it. I'm built for those snowy mountains of the north. Hot and humid in Texas in the worst ways. Marina, you're turning 53 on Saturday. Wonderful. It's currently 63 degrees. Where are you? Well, you don't have to say, Molly, but whereabouts are you at? I'd throw some sacrifices into a volcano for 63 degrees right now. I would do great and terrible things for 63 degrees. Oh, up in Michigan. Yeah, it would be a little bit cooler there. I just want to bowl me 72 and with no wind. Like, is that so hard to ask? Apparently it is, Ashley. Apparently it is. Yeah, Michigan stays nice and cool. It can get pretty hot there. What does 18 degrees Celsius convert to? It's a wonderful question. I think, isn't 18 degrees, isn't it 60? I think. I could be wrong. Yeah, 64. 64 degrees. I'm surprised I can still do that math in my head. I don't ever use Celsius anymore. I only use freedom units. Living in the United States. That's excellent, Marty. Good to hear. 72 in Tennessee. 72 in Tennessee is extra warm. Because of all of the humidity. But be careful of it. Alright, let's continue. But Ron's tolerance was not to be tested much as they moved into June. For Harry and Ginny's time together was becoming increasingly restricted. Ginny's OWLs were approaching, and she was therefore forced to study for hours into the night. On one such evening, when Jenny had retired to the library, and Harry was sitting beside the window in the common room, supposedly finishing his herbology homework, but in reality reliving a particular happy hour he had spent down by the lake with Ginny at lunchtime, Hermione dropped into the seat between him and Ron, and, with an unpleasantly purposeful look on her face,
I want to talk to you, Harry.
"What about?" said Harry suspiciously. Only the day previous, Hermione had told him off for distracting Ginny when she ought to be working hard on her examinations.
The so-called half-blood prince. Oh no, not again.
He groaned.
Will you please drop it?
He had not dared to return to the room of requirement to retrieve his book, and his performance in potions was suffering accordingly. Though Slughorn, who approved of Ginny, had jocularly attributed this to Harry being lovesick. But Harry was sure that Snape had not yet given up hope of laying his hands on the prince's book, and was determined to leave it where it was while Snape remained on the lookout.
I'm not dropping it,
said Hermione firmly.
until you've heard me out. Now, I've been trying to find out a bit more about who might make a hobby of inventing dark spells. He didn't make a hobby of it. He. Who says it's a he? We've been through this,
said Harry crossly.
Prince, Hermione. Prince. Right,
said Hermione, red patches blazing in her cheeks as she pulled a very old piece of newsprint out of her pocket and slammed it down on the table in front of Harry.
Look at that. Look at the picture.
Harry picked up the crumbling piece of paper and stared at the moving photograph, yellowed with age. Ron leaned over for a look too. The picture showed a skinny girl around 15. She was not pretty. She looked simultaneously cross and sullen, with heavy brows and a long, pallid face. Underneath the photograph was the caption,
Eileen Prince, captain of Hogwarts Gobstones team. So,
said Harry, scanning the short news item to which the picture belonged. It was a rather dull story about inter-school competitions.
Her name was Eileen Prince. Prince Harry.
They looked at each other, and Harry realized what Hermione was trying to say. He burst out laughing.
No way! What? You think she was the half-blood? Oh, come on. Well, why not? Harry, there aren't any real princes in the wizarding world. It's either a nickname or a made-up title somebody's given themselves. Or it could be their actual name, couldn't it? No, listen. If I say her father was a wizard whose surname was Prince and her mother was a muggle, then that would make her a half-blood prince. Yeah, very ingenious, Hermione. But it would. Maybe she's proud of being half a prince. Listen, Hermione, I can tell it's not a girl. I can just tell. The truth is that you don't think a girl would be clever enough,
said Hermione angrily.
How can I have hung around you for 5 years and not think girls are clever?
Said Harry, stung by this.
It's the way he writes. I just know the prince was a bloke, I can tell. This girl hasn't got anything to do with it. Where did you get this anyway? The library, said Hermione predictably. It's a whole collection of old prophets up there. Well, I'm going to find out more about Eileen Prince if I can.
Enjoy yourself, said Harry irritably.
I will,
said Hermione.
And the first place I'll look,
she shot at him as she reached the portrait hall,
is the records of old potions awards.
Harry scowled after her for a moment and then continued his contemplation of the darkening sky.
She's just never got over you outperforming her in potions,
said Ron, returning to his copy of 1000 Magical Herbs and Fungi. Loving the accents, I can only do schools. I do my best. I do my best. Thank you for the drink, Chester. Cheers. Appreciate that. Alright. Where was I?
You don't think I'm mad wanting that book back, do you?
Of course not, said Ron robustly.
He was a genius, the prince. Anyway, how's Basil, Tip?
He drew his finger significantly across his own throat.
I wouldn't be here to discuss it, would I? I mean, I'm not saying that your spell you used on Malfoy was great. Nor am I, said Harry quickly. But he healed all right, didn't he? Back on his feet in no time.
Yeah, said Harry. This was perfectly true, although his conscience squirmed slightly all the same.
Thanks to Snape.
What popped up? I heard... Oh, Creighton New, thank you for the follow over on TikTok, welcome in. So very glad that you could join us, grab your seat and settle in. Kayla, hello, second visit in 48 hours. Hey, I'm in the hospital again. Well, that's not good. Why do you keep hurting yourself? Extreme headaches. That's the worst. Is it being brought on by heat? Dehydration? What's the cause? Catherine Edwards, hello and welcome in. So very glad that you could join us. Oh, we have an ad break going over. I guess it's a good thing I looked up and started waffling. We're in the midst of ads. It's all right. I've paused for a minute, so we're not reading anymore. But Catherine, welcome in. So very glad you could. For all of the new folk who've dropped in, I am Castle. This is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. And every now and again, I read you all a bedtime story. Tonight we are in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and you have found yourself stumbling through a portal into a tavern at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. So make sure that you mark us on your map to make it easier to find your way back the very next time you seek out a story. I feel like Christina Yang. I need somebody to sedate me. I can't sleep. What are you making sure that you're hydrating, Erin? And staying cool, keeping cool cloth on your neck? Dizziness and vomiting, no idea, it's a mystery. I went to work and ended up in the wee woo. I've got stitches on my eyebrow from nearly knocking my... Well, that's definitely not good. Make sure you're hydrating and you're... Is it warm where you are, Kayla? I know that the heat knocks people out very, very quickly. Sorry, I can't see everyone's comments. You know, South Road is usually in the 90s. When it goes down to 75 degrees, the people get cold. They think it's absolutely insane because I'm from New Jersey and I stay in shorts and a t-shirt all the time. See, I grew up in Southern Ireland, which is in the valleys and hills near Wicklow, and it is absolutely always like I never experienced a summer there that was over 85 degrees, and most of the time it's somewhere between like 55 and 68 is usually what it is. I'm hydrated. I'm just so uncomfortable. I understand, love. It's hard. It's really hard when you're congested. Have you tried like Vicks on the chest or eucalyptus in a what are the thing that sprays steam, lovey? Vaporizer, or even just like a steaming bowl with some eucalyptus in it or some mint will really help clean out the sinuses. Or you can just eat something really hot and it'll clear all of that out. Matty says hello, by the way, love. Or you could use Mucinex. That's what I forget. I'm a ancient barbarian, so we don't have Mucinex where I come from. Yeah, it's alright. We're all the same page, Ashley. Great minds think alike. I am. It's 100 plus today. Thank you. Okay, so it very well could be that the heat is getting to you then, because if you're particularly sensitive to temperature changes, that'll cause headaches, it'll cause dizziness, it'll cause nausea, it'll cause nerve problems, it'll cause skin irritation. There are a whole manner of things. So please make sure you're taking care of yourself. Always be mindful. Err on the side of caution. It's very important. I had Robitussin DM earlier. Usually I'm okay. I've just had a bad headache. Again, those things can hit very, very quickly. Like heat stroke and heat exhaustion and even water cramps. If you're drinking too much water, you can cause yourself to become overly hydrated, and that'll give you headaches. It can cause nausea. It can cause abdominal pain from oversaturating the kidneys. There's so much that can happen when it's this hot. You have to be very careful. I'm from the age you don't get sick, which has gotten me terribly sick more time than I'd like. It's what always happens. It's why the last time when the boy brought home the plague, I just took the 3 days of like, you know what, I'm just gonna lay down, which I never do. It's the first time in my life I've ever done it. And usually when I get sick, I'm sick for over a week. But this time the lady insisted that I rest. I laid down, I stayed in bed for 2 days, and after the 2 days, I was basically better. and I had a little bit of residual that kept with me for a bit, and I'm still a bit congested. I don't know if that's because of the weather, because we're having a lot of really bad air out here, but as I was saying, please keep pushing the fluids, and we're all sending healing. Yes, absolutely. I just can't stand too long without my body dropping out. Yeah, that sounds to me like your body is heat exhausted. Now, I'm not a doctor, so obviously listen to whatever your doctors say, but just make sure you're being careful. Alright, I think the ads are done over on Twitch, so let us continue, my friends. Raise your glasses and let us get back into the story. You still got detention with Snape this Saturday? Ron continued. Yeah, and the Saturday after that, and the Saturday after that. Sighed Harry. And he's hinting that if I don't get all the boxes done by end of term, we'll carry on next year. He was finding these detentions particularly irksome because they cut into the already limited time he could have been spending with Ginny. Indeed, he had frequently wondered lately whether Snape did not know this, for he was keeping Harry later and later every time, while making pointed asides about Harry having to miss the good weather and the varied opportunities it offered. Harry was shaken from these bitter reflections by the appearance at his side of Jimmy Peaks, who was holding out a scroll of parchment. Thanks, Jimmy. Hey, it's from Dumbledore, said Harry excitedly, unrolling the parchment and scanning it. He wants me to go to his office as quick as I can. They stared at each other. Blimey, whispered Ron. You don't reckon he hasn't found... I better go and see, hadn't I? Said Harry, jumping to his feet. He hurried out of the common room and along the 7th floor as fast as he could, passing nobody but Peeves, who swooped past in the opposite direction, throwing bits of chalk at Harry in a routine sort of way, and cackling loudly as he dodged Harry's defensive jinx. Once Peeves had vanished, there was silence in the corridor. Only 15 minutes left until curfew. Most people had already returned to their common rooms. And then Harry heard a scream and a crash. He stopped in his tracks, listening. How dare you! Ah! The noise was coming from a corridor nearby. Harry sprinted toward it, his wand at the ready. He hurtled around another corner and saw Professor Trelawney sprawled on the floor, her head covered by one of her many shawls, several sherry bottles lying beside her, one broken. Professor! Harry hurried forward to help Professor Trelawney to her feet. Some of the glittering beads had become entangled in her glasses. She hiccuped loudly and patted her hair and pulled herself up on Harry's helping arm. What happened, Professor?
You may well ask, she said shrilly. I was strolling along, brooding up on certain dark portents I happened to have glimpsed.
But Harry was not paying much attention. He had just noticed where they were standing. There on the right was the tapestry of the dancing trolls, and on the left, that smoothly impenetrable stretch of stone wall concealed. Professor, were you trying to get into the room of requirement?
Heavens have been vouchsafed. What?
She looked suddenly shifty. The room of requirement, repeated Harry. Were you trying to get in there? I don't know students knew about... Not all of them do, said Harry. But what happened? You screamed and it sounded like you were hurt. Said Professor Trelawney, drawing her shawls around her defensively and staring down at him with a vastly magnified eyes. I wish to deposit certain personal items into the room. As she muttered something about nasty accusations. Right, said Harry, glancing down at the sherry bottles. But you couldn't get in to hide them. He found this very odd. The room had opened for him, after all. when he wanted to hide the Half-Blood Prince's book,
"Oh, I got in all right,
said Professor Trelawney, glaring at the wall.
but there was somebody already in there." "Somebody in? Who?"
demanded Harry.
"Who was in there?"
I have no idea,
said Professor Trelawney, looking slightly taken aback at the urgency in Harry's voice.
I walked into the room and heard a voice which has never happened before in all my years of hiding, of using the room, I mean.
A voice? Saying what?
I don't know that it was saying anything. It was whooping.
Whooping?
Gleefully.
She said, nodding. Harry stared at her.
Was it male or female?
I would hazard a guess at male,
said Professor Trelawney.
And it sounded happy.
Very happy,
said Professor Trelawney sniffily.
as though it was celebrating.
Most definitely.
And
Oh, as though it was celebrating.
most definitely.
And then?
And then I called out, "Who's there?"
You couldn't have found out who it was without asking?
Harry asked her, slightly frustrated.
The inner eye.
Said Professor Trelawney with dignity, straightening her shawls and many strands of glittering beads.
Was fixed upon matters well outside the mundane realms of whooping voices.
Right, said Harry hastily. He had heard about Professor Trelawney's inner eye all too often before.
And did the voice say who it was? Who was there?
No, it didn't.
She said.
Everything went pitch black. And the next thing I knew, I was being hurled headfirst out of the room.
And you didn't see that coming?
Said Harry, unable to help himself.
No, I did not. As I say, it was pitch.
She stopped and glared at him suspiciously.
I think you'd better tell Professor Dumbledore, said Harry. He ought to know Malfoy's celebrating. I mean, that someone threw you out of the room.
To his surprise, Professor Trelawney drew herself up at the suggestion, looking haughty.
The headmaster has intimidated that he would prefer fewer visits from me.
She said coldly.
I am not one to press my company upon those who do not value it. If Dumbledore chooses to ignore the warnings the cards show,
Her bony hands closed suddenly on Harry's wrist.
again and again, no matter how I lay them out,
And she pulled a card dramatically from underneath her shawls.
the lightning struck the tower.
She whispered.
Calamity, disaster, coming nearer all the time.
Right, said Harry again. Well, I still think you should tell Dumbledore about this voice, and everything going dark, being thrown out of the room.
You think so?
Professor Trelawney seemed to consider the matter for a moment, but Harry could tell that she liked the idea of retelling her little adventure.
I'm going to see him now,
Said Harry.
I've got a meeting with him. We could go together.
Oh, well, in that case,
Said Professor Trelawney with a smile. She bent down and scooped up her sherry bottles and dumped them unceremoniously in a large blue and white vase standing in a nearby niche. You live in Colorado. Oh, now I understand why we had a whole study of squirrels. It's mostly in your rural areas, and now I'm doing a deep dive. Just thought it was silly. We genuinely had field trips as kids into woodlands to study animals. I'm so lost in that conversation. Marina, thank you kindly for the bits. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. Thank you kindly, love. I appreciate you for that. Bear, hello. Greetings and hallucinations, Tavern Goers, and our esteemed host, Castle. Bear, so very glad you could join us, my friend. I hope you're all doing quite well. For those of you that aren't sick, apparently many of you are sick. For everyone who is not sick, I hope that you're doing well. And for everyone who is sick, I hope that you're doing better. The fungus rabbits are crazy, Belinda. I had some previous knowledge of this from before. Of the eldritch rabbits in Colorado. But I had never seen them quite as bad as the ones that are being spread around right now. Which is crazy. They're absolutely insane. I don't think there are many of us who aren't. Yeah, you guys got to make sure you're resting and taking care of yourselves. Christy, hello, welcome in. It's got to deer too, yeah. I wasn't aware of that, but it is quite terrifying. I mean, it's fortunate that it's not, I guess, deadly or painful for them, but it is terrifying to look at. It is horrific. Stephanie, hello, long time no see, welcome in. So very glad you could join us. Just a bit tied up IRL at the moment. You don't have to share your recreational activities with us, Maddie. However you want to be tied up, that's entirely up to you. I won't judge you. I will judge you. But I won't judge you, I promise. So very good to see you, Stephanie. I'm glad that you could make it in tonight. And you're in relatively early. We're only about an hour in, and got plenty of time left of stories. No, I'm just... Oh, wait. Is this technical thing? I don't know. He just said he was tied up, and I said he didn't have to share. However he likes to tie himself up in his own life, that's his business. Stephanie, thank you for the love you so much. It's deeply appreciated. Tips of the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. Thank you kindly. Alright, where were we?
I miss having you in my classes, Harry.
She said soulfully as they set off together.
You are never much of a seer, but you were a wonderful object.
Harry did not reply. He had loathed being the object of Professor Trelawney's continual predictions of doom.
I am afraid,
She went on.
that the the centaur knows nothing of cartomancy. I ask him one seer to another. Had he not, too, sensed distant vibrations of coming catastrophe? But he seemed to find me almost comical. Yes, comical.
Her voice rose rather hysterically, and Harry caught a powerful whiff of sherry, even though the bottles had been left behind.
Perhaps the horse has heard people say I have not inherited my great-great-grandmother's gift. Those rumours have been bandied about by the jealous for years. You know what I say to such people, Harry. Would Dumbledore have let me teach this great school, put so much trust in me all these years? Had I not proved myself to him?
Harry mumbled something indistinct.
Well, I remember my first interview with Dumbledore,
went on Professor Trelawney in throaty tones.
He was deeply impressed, of course. Deeply impressed. I was staying at the Hogshead, which I do not advise, incidentally. Bedbugs, dear boy. But funds were low. Dumbledore did me the courtesy of calling upon me in my room. He questioned me. I must confess that, at first, I thought he seemed ill-disposed towards divination. But I remember I was starting to feel a little odd. I had not eaten much that day, but then...
And now Harry was paying attention properly for the first time. For he knew what had happened then. Professor Trelawney had made the prophecy that had altered the course of his whole life. The prophecy about him and Voldemort.
But then we were rudely interrupted by Severus Snape.
What?
Yes, there was a commotion outside the door, and it flew open, and there was that rather uncouth barman standing with Snape, who was waffling about, having come the wrong way up the stairs, although I'm afraid that I myself rather thought that he had been apprehended eavesdropping on my interview with Dumbledore. You see, he himself was seeking a job at the time, and no doubt he hoped to pick up tips. Well, after that, you know, Dumbledore seemed much more disposed to give me a job, and I could not help thinking, Harry, that it was because he appreciated the stark contrast between my own unassuming manners and quiet talent, compared to the pushing, thrusting young man who was prepared to listen at keyholes. Harry, dear.
She looked back over her shoulder, having realized just now that Harry was no longer with her. He had stopped walking, and they were only now 10 feet from each other.
Harry,
She repeated uncertainly. Perhaps his face was white to make her look so concerned and frightened. Harry was standing shock still as waves of shock crashed over him, wave after wave obliterating everything except the information that had been kept from him for so long. It was Snape who had overheard the prophecy. It was Snape who had carried the news of the prophecy to Voldemort. Snape and Pettigrew together had sent Voldemort hunting after Lily and James and their son. Nothing else mattered to Harry just now.
Harry,
said Professor Trelawney again.
Harry, I thought we were going to see the headmaster together.
You stay here.
Said Harry through numb lips.
But, dear, I was going to tell him how I was assaulted in the room of...
You stay here.
Harry repeated angrily. She looked alarmed as he ran past her, round the corner into Dumbledore's corridor, where the lone gargoyle stood sentry. Harry shouted the password at the gargoyle and ran up the moving spiral staircase 3 steps at a time. He did not knock upon Dumbledore's door, he hammered, and the calm voice answered, "Enter!" After Harry had already flung himself into the room. Fawkes the Phoenix looked around, his bright black eyes gleaming with reflected gold from the sunset beyond the windows. Dumbledore was standing at the window looking out on the grounds, a long black travelling cloak in his arms. "Well, Harry, I promised that you could come with me." For a moment or two, Harry did not understand. The conversation with Trelawney had driven everything else from his head, and his brain seemed to be moving very slowly.
Come with you.
"Only you wish, of course. If I..." And then Harry remembered why he had been eager to come to Dumbledore's office in the first place.
You found one. You found a Horcrux.
"I believe so." Rage and resentment fought shock and excitement. For several moments, Harry could not speak. "It's natural to be afraid," said Dumbledore.
I'm not scared.
Said Harry at once. And it was perfectly true. Fear was one emotion he was not feeling.
Which Horcrux is it? Where is it?
"I'm not sure which it is, though I think we can rule out the snake. I believe it to be hidden in a cave on the coast, many miles from here. A cave I have been trying to locate for a very long time. The cave in which Tom Riddle once terrorized 2 children from his orphanage on their annual trip. Do you remember?"
Yes,
said Harry.
how is it protected?
"I do not know. My suspicions that may be entirely wrong." Dumbledore hesitated and then said, "Harry, I promised you that you could come with me. Stand by that promise. But it would be very wrong of me not to warn you that this will be exceedingly dangerous."
I'm coming.
Said Harry, almost before Dumbledore had finished speaking. Boiling with anger at Snape, his desire to do something desperate and risky had increased tenfold in the last few minutes. This seemed to show on Harry's face, but Dumbledore moved away from the window and looked more closely at Harry, a slight crease between his silver eyebrows. What has happened to you?
Nothing, Harry lied promptly.
What has upset you?
I'm not upset.
Harry, you're never very good at occurments.
Harry, you were never very good at occupants. The words were the spark that ignited Harry's fury. Snape! He said very loudly, and Fox gave a soft squawk behind him. Snape, what's happened? He told Voldemort about the prophecy. It was him. He listened outside the door. Trelawney told me. Dumbledore's expression had not changed, but Harry thought his face whitened under the bloody tinge cast by the setting sun. For a long moment, Dumbledore said nothing.
When did you find this out?
He asked at last. Just now, said Harry, who was refraining from yelling with an enormous difficulty, and then suddenly he could not stop himself. And you let him teach her! And he told Voldemort to go after my mum and dad! Breathing hard as though he was fighting, Harry turned away from Dumbledore, who had not moved a muscle, and paced up and down the stubby, rubbing his knuckles with his hands, and exercising every last bit of restraint to prevent himself from knocking things over. He wanted to rage and storm at Dumbledore, but he also wanted to go with him to destroy the Horcrux. He wanted to tell him that he was a foolish old man for trusting Snape, but he was terrified that Dumbledore would not take him along unless he mastered his anger.
Harry,
said Dumbledore quietly.
please, listen to me.
It was difficult to stop his relentless pacing as to refrain from shouting. And he paused, biting his lip, and looked into Dumbledore's lined face.
Professor Snape made a terrible...
Don't tell me it was a mistake, sir. He was listening at the door.
Please, let me finish.
Dumbledore waited until Harry had nodded curtly and then went on.
Professor Snape made a terrible mistake. He was still in Lord Voldemort's employ on the night he heard the first half of Professor Trelawney's prophecy. Naturally, he hastened to tell his master what he had heard, for it concerned his master most deeply. But he did not know, he had no possible way of knowing, which boy Voldemort would hunt from then onward, or that the parents would be destroyed in his monstrous quest. Were people that Professor Snape knew, that they were your mother and father.
Harry let out a yell of mirthless laughter. He hated my dad, like he hated Sirius. Haven't you noticed, Professor, how the people Snape hates tend to end up dead?
You have no idea the remorse Professor Snape felt when he realized Lord Voldemort had interpreted the prophecy, Harry. I believe it to be the greatest regret of his life, and the reason that he returned.
But he's very good at occupants, isn't he, sir? Said Harry, whose voice was shaking with an effort of keeping it steady. And isn't Voldemort convinced that Snape's on his side even now? Professor, how can you be sure Snape's on our side? I'm reading the book. I just finished this chapter. Crazy. Well, the universe has brought you into the tavern at just the right time. Skjor, hello! Welcome in. So very glad that you could join us. Has anyone seen the latest video or esteemed tavern keeper about the... Thank you, Richard. I appreciate you for that. Matty.exe is rebooting. Sláinte, my friend. I'm so very glad that you've joined us. Thank you for the drink, by the way. Cheers. Fill your glass. Sorry to pop in, then out having a mental crisis. Good night and good tomorrow, everyone. Gunnar, don't ever apologize for having a hard time, my friend. Hard times are part of everything. You're allowed to come in and have a hard time and share your woes and share your victories and so on. Kayla, thank you for the Deanies and for the finger hearts. I appreciate you for that. And Nate, thank you for the heart meat tips at the tavern keeper. Always appreciated, my friends. You're too kind. I really need to go to bed.
But now that I've found you, I don't want to stop watching. Sheik, I'm so very glad that you've joined us. Make sure you mark the tavern on your map. We do this twice a week, where I read to you and then the lady of the tavern reads on Sundays. Bedtime stories at least 3 times a week, sometimes more if we can manage it. Heathen Dad, thank you for the heart me. Andre, thank you for the follow. You've marked us on your map. Should be able to find your way back. The next time that the portal's open and you find your way into the tavern. Also, Art Lost Hippie, thank you for the follow over on Twitch. Welcome into the tavern, my friends. Again, for all of you who are here, trying really hard to fill the live. I appreciate you, Kayla. Thank you kindly. Heathen Dad, thank you for filling it out. Appreciate you very much. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. And Sheik, thank you kindly. I love you all and missed you so much. Thank you all for welcoming back. I couldn't imagine a time when you wouldn't have a seat here in the tavern, Stephanie. So very glad that you did make it back. For all of you who are new, I am Castle. This is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. And every once in a while, I will read you all a bedtime story. This is a tavern at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. And you have stumbled through a portal, which means that you sought a story. So grab your seats and fill in. I did not stretch, thank you. Oh, actually needed that. Marina, thank you kindly. Alright. On my way home now, just glad everyone's here. Be safe on your way home. Be safe on your way home, Kayla. Cheers, friends. Bear has been telling me he wants a shillelagh for a long time. Yeah, actually, I did a story time on a shillelagh a while back for Bear. All right, everyone, settle in. We're almost to the end of this chapter, so we'll be doing one more chapter after this. So grab your seats, make sure that they're full. Let's continue. Dumbledore did not speak for a moment. He looked as though he was trying to make up his mind about something. At last he said, I am sure. I trust Severus Snape completely. Harry breathed deeply for a few moments in an effort to steady himself. It did not work. Well, I don't, he said as loudly as before. He's up to something with Draco Malfoy right now, right under your nose, and you still... We have discussed this, Harry, said Dumbledore, and now he sounded stern again. I have told you my views. You're leaving the school tonight, and I bet you haven't even considered that Snape and Malfoy might decide to... To what? Said Dumbledore, his eyebrows raised. What is it you suspect them of doing precisely? They're up to something, said Harry, and his hands curled into fists as he said it. Professor Trelawney was just in the room of requirement, trying to hide her sherry bottles, and she heard Malfoy whooping, celebrating. He's trying to mend something dangerous in there, and if you ask me, he's fixed it at last. And you're about to just walk out of the school without... Enough! Shouted Dumbledore. He said it quite calmly, and yet Harry fell silent at once. He knew that he had finally crossed some invisible line. Do you think that I have once left the school unprotected during my absences this year? I have not. Tonight, when I leave here, there will again be additional protections in place. Please do not suggest that I do not take the safety of my students seriously, Harry. I didn't, mumbled Harry. A little abashed, but Dumbledore cut across him. I do not wish to discuss this matter any further. Harry bit back his retort, scared that he had gone too far, that he had ruined his chance of accompanying Dumbledore, but Dumbledore went on. Do you wish to come with me tonight? Yes, said Harry at once. Very well. Listen. Dumbledore drew himself up to his full height. I take you with me on one condition, that you must obey any command I might give you at once, without question. Of course. Be sure you understand me, Harry. I mean that you must follow even such orders as run, hide, or go back. Do I have your word?
Yes, of course.
If I tell you to hide, you will do so.
Yes,
If I tell you to flee, you will obey.
yes.
If I tell you to leave me, save yourself, you will do as I tell you.
I...
Harry,
They looked at each other for a moment. Yes, sir.
very good. Then I wish for you to go and fetch your invisibility cloak. Meet me at the entrance hall in 5 minutes' time.
Dumbledore turned back to look out of the fiery window. The sun was now a ruby-red glare along the horizon. Harry walked quickly from the office down the spiral staircase. His mind was oddly cleared all of a sudden. He knew what to do. Ron and Hermione were sitting together in the common room when he came back. "What does he want?" said Hermione at once. "Harry, are you okay?" she added anxiously. "I'm fine," said Harry shortly, racing past them. He dashed up the stairs into his dormitory, where he flung open his trunk and pulled out the Marauder's map and a pair of balled-up socks. Then he sped back down the stairs into the common room and skidded to a halt where Ron and Hermione sat looking stunned. "I've got to be quick," Harry panted. "Dumbledore thinks I'm getting my invisibility cloak. Listen." Quickly he told them where he was going and why. He did not pause either for Hermione's gasps of horror or Ron's hasty questions. They could work out the finer details for themselves later. "You see what this means?" Harry finished at a gallop. "Dumbledore won't be here tonight, so Malfoy is going to have another clear shot at whatever he's up to. No, listen to me," he hissed angrily as both Ron and Hermione showed every side of interrupting. "I know it was Malfoy celebrating the room requirement. Here." He shoved the Marauder's map into Hermione's hands. "You've got to watch him, and you've got to watch Snape too. Use anyone else who can rustle up from the DA, Hermione. Those contact galleons still work, right? Dumbledore says he's put extra protections on the school, but if Snape is involved, he'll know what Dumbledore's protection is and how to avoid it. But he won't be expecting a lot to be on watch, will he?" "Harry," began Hermione, her eyes huge with fear. "I haven't got time to argue," said Harry curtly. "Take this as well." He thrust the socks into Ron's hands. "Thanks," said Ron. Why do I need socks?" "You need what's wrapped in them. It's Felix Felicis. Share it between yourselves and Ginny too. Say goodbye to her for me. I better go. Dumbledore's waiting." "No," said Hermione as Ron unwrapped the tiny bottle of golden potion-looking awestruck. "We don't want it. You take it. Who knows what you're going to be facing? I'll be fine. I'll be with Dumbledore. I want to know you lot are okay. Don't look at me like that, Hermione. I'll see you later." And he was off, hurrying back through the portrait hole and towards the entrance hall. Has the ring already happened? What ring are we talking about? Stephanie? We are on chapter 25 in book 6. Chapter 25 in The Half-Blood Prince. Esther, hello. I hope you're doing well. I hope I've not missed anything. You missed about half a chapter, Esther. Tyson, hello to you as well, my friend. Welcome in. Do you also read books of mythology like the Havamal? For Storytime, I read whatever the community votes on. Sure. So when the books are at the end, I put 4 books out over in the guild as possibilities for what can be read, and the community votes. The Havamal is on there. We've also had the Eddas on there, and I do partial readings over on YouTube as well, upon request. I'll be with Dumbledore, which makes me emotional. It is a thing. By the way, everyone, since we have quite a few of the regulars in here, the lady and I will be scheduling a readathon soon, and the readathon will likely be as many of the Tolkien books as we can manage in the time.
So we'll start in the Hobbit, and then we'll go for as long as the readathon goes on. So, that should be good fun. Alright, let us continue. And he was off, hurrying back through the portrait hole and down towards the entrance hall. Dumbledore was waiting beside the oaken front doors. He turned as Harry came skidding into the topmost stone step, panting hard, a searing stitch in his side. "I would like you to wear your cloak, please," said Dumbledore, and he waited until Harry had thrown it on before saying, "Very good. Shall we go?" Dumbledore set off at once down the stone steps, his own travelling cloak barely stirring in the still summer air. Harry hurried alongside him under the invisibility cloak, still panting and sweating rather a lot.
What will people think when they see you leaving, Professor?
Harry asked, his mind on Malfoy and Snape. "But I'm off to Hogsmeade for a drink," said Dumbledore lightly. "Sometimes offer, as a matter my custom. What else? A visit to the Hog's Head. Or I appear to. This is as good a way as any to disguise one's true destination." They made their way down the drive in the gathering twilight. The air was full of smells of warm grass, lake water, and wood smoke from Hagrid's cabin. It was difficult to believe that they were heading for anything dangerous or frightening.
Professor,
Harry said quietly as the gates at the bottom of the drive came into view.
will we be operating?
"Yes," said Dumbledore. "You can operate now, I believe."
Yes,
said Harry.
but I haven't got a license.
He felt it best to be honest. What if he spoiled everything by turning up 100 miles from where he was supposed to go? "No matter," said Dumbledore. "I can assist you again." They turned out of the gates into the twilight, deserted lane to Hogsmeade. Darkness descended fast as they walked, and by the time they reached the high street, night was falling in earnest. Lights twinkled from the windows over the shops. As they neared the Three Broomsticks, they heard raucous shouting.
"And stay out!"
Shouted Madame Rosemerta, forcibly ejecting a grubby-looking wizard.
"Oh, hello, Albus. You're out late?"
"Good evening, Rosemerta. Good evening. Forgive me. I'm off to Hog's Head. No offense, but I feel like a quieter atmosphere tonight." A minute later, they turned the corner onto the side street, where the Hog's Head sign creaked a little, though there was no breeze. In contrast to the Three Broomsticks, the pub appeared to be completely empty. "It will not be necessary for us to enter," muttered Dumbledore, glancing around, "as long as no one sees us go. Now place your hand upon my arm, Harry. There's no need to grip too hard. I am merely guiding you. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Harry turned. At once there was a horrible sensation that he was being squeezed through a thick rubber tube. He could not draw breath. Every part of him was being compressed almost past endurance, and then, just when he thought he might suffocate, the invisible band seemed to burst open, and he was standing in the cool darkness, breathing lungfuls of fresh, salty air. Oh, the ring in the cave where Harry had to pour the poison down Dumbledore's throat, finding the berries. We're actually just now getting there. That is the next chapter, as a matter of fact. Stay out of the ocean. I agree, that's the wet bit. We don't live on the wet bit. The wet bit is not somewhere you need to go. So I've been listening and looking up some of the things tomorrow. We're going to take the kids to the beach, but most near us are deemed unsafe to swim in. I think the ocean is beautiful. I even like going out on boats on occasion. There's no good reason to ever be in the ocean, in my personal opinion. Everything out in the ocean can and will kill you, including the ocean itself. If you had been intended to be on that wet bit, you would be better off there. We're nowhere near the ocean and we're landlocked. It would be like, lakes are better. I guess it depends on where you are. Lakes in the United States might have crocodiles in them. The ocean is beautiful, but there's no I'll go and look at it. I'll go and look at the ocean, but being in the ocean is terrible. Lake Erie is freaking eerie. It's eerie, don't go in it. I have to fly over it. Flying over it's fine, as long as you make it over. If you end up falling in it, then that's bad. I had a late night in the shop on Tuesday, missed you by 20 minutes. And we were on so early on Tuesday, Tyson, that it is not very surprising that you missed us. I love being in the ocean 90 miles out fishing. See, again, like, I do enjoy being on a boat every now and again, but there are fish in the ocean that can swallow small boats. And admittedly, whales are mammals. And there are tons of fish in the ocean, like orcas, that love to just hunt for fun. And I'd rather be on land where I have a chance against most things that would attack me. I was early, yes. Well, we had a thing that we had to get done. We had what is the word I'm looking for?
I don't know, what are you talking about?
What we did yesterday, we had a... Not yesterday, I meant Tuesday. Arrangement. What's it called when you have to do something?
Oh, because...
Yeah, when you have... No, we went to the airport on Tuesday. But that's why we had to leave early on Tuesday. Commitment. We had a commitment. There you go. That obligation. Thank you, K-Babe. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. It would not come into my head. Obligation. We had an obligation. On Tuesday?
Oh, on Tuesday. I thought it was today.
No. We're talking about Tuesday. Yes, obligation. Vampire Butterfly. It's been a long time. Hello, welcome in. It's good to see you. I saw you dropped in earlier, actually, but I'm glad that you've come to spend some time with us. But yes, obligation. For some reason, that word would not come into my head. Casual, I surfed over a decade and enjoyed the ocean. Again, the ocean is beautiful, and I understand why people love the ocean. But, yes. Is anyone else having an issue with the feed? That's a good question. User 705. There's no name there. Just user 705. Alright then. Good night, everyone. Please pace yourselves when you're outside in the heat. I hope you all feel better. See you soon. Thank you, Castle. Richard, always a pleasure, my friend. May you rest well and may you rise tomorrow ready to face the day. Have yourself a fine night, my friends. Being on a boat in the ocean makes you a bath toy for large... Precisely, Tyson. And I am not big enough to fight most of the things in the ocean, and I have no advantage against anything that's going to come after me in the ocean. A large group of dolphins surfing the waves. Even dolphins are terrifying. Dolphins are actually more terrifying than sharks, because dolphins will mess with you for fun. I am fairly confident in my ability to defend myself against most things on land. I have I don't even think I could defend myself against a sunfish in the water. And sunfish are very dumb. Nala, hello, welcome in. So good to see you. I'm glad you could drop by. I often pop in and listen as I do necessary tasks. Wonderful. I'm glad to hear it. Even if any of you ever pop in and you don't make yourselves known, know that I still appreciate that you drop by just to hear the stories. I'm saying that I don't think that I could take a sunfish. If a sunfish attacked me, I would be at a disadvantage. I had completely forgotten, complete brain fog, and forgot about Marvel O'Gaunt's ring. I did too. I thought that the ring had already been destroyed, but apparently not. Oh, and don't go to Lake Ontario, it's dirty. Most of the lakes up there are not great, since there's so much manufacturing in that area. I can't take a goldfish, to be honest. I think you could probably handle a goldfish, Matty. Yeah, dolphins are not nice. They're beautiful creatures, just like orcas are. That sunfish are incredibly slow. That is true, but I still think that a sunfish would have advantage over me in the ocean. I'm just saying, I could. They are huge. I will happily take on most creatures on land. I think I can defend myself in some way against most creatures on land. I have zero confidence against anything in the water. Anything in the water, I am at a distinct disadvantage because I'm not made for the water. Because we have never had issues with dolphins, rather we have concerns about sharks. Well, yeah, and there are some sharks that are fine, like bull sharks usually are fine. You have nurse sharks, and there are lemon sharks that are typically they're not much of an issue. But you have hammerhead sharks that hunt for fun, tiger sharks that hunt for fun, and orcas and dolphins will just come up and smack you just for fun. Sunfish start out at sunfish start out like this big, and then they get to be some of the biggest fish in the ocean. If I can catch a sunfish with bubblegum, I think you'd be okay. I'm having a good treat after a rough week. I deserve good things. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you decided to come spend some of it with us here in the tavern. Actually, a bunch of lakes in this area are gorgeous and clean, but the Great Lakes, along with the densely populated areas, are dirty. I'm near Toronto, so yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. The ones that are down in like the little divot there, a lot of them are not great. Let me pop up and refill my mug. I'm not going to take a long break today. Who do we want another chapter? Let's get a consensus. Do we want another chapter, friends? At this point, Dumbledore has destroyed Marvelo's ring. It caused this black. That's what I thought, but I don't know. I think it's the locket that is in the cave, if I remember correctly. Belinda says yes. Nate says sure. Cherry Gomez says yes. Aussie surfer Mick Fanning got up close and personal with a great white off South Africa. Didn't like his attitude, so being an Aussie, he just punched it in the nose and got on with surfing. Which you can do. And again, I have no confidence against anything in the water. A lot of lakes in Washington are beautiful. They're fed by snow and melt off, so you can see the bottom of the lake. There are a lot of beautiful lakes up in Washington, that is true. Castle, I missed the first chapter. Please provide another chapter. Alright, Esther, you got it. Yes, fake locket is in the cave. Okay. Tyson says yes. Matty says yes. Sheik says yes. Made it home safe, by the way. Wonderful, Kayla. That's good news. Come to New England. If you swim in the right place, you can avoid the great whites. I do a wonderful job of avoiding the great whites on land, Stephanie. I've never encountered a great white on land. Castle. Okay. All right. So another chapter. Let me get up, refill my tankard, and I will be right back. In the meantime, you all welcome in some of the new folk. A little Lily goes, you are late, Lily, but we're doing a whole other chapter. So we're doing chapter 26, which is probably one of the most important chapters in the whole of the book. So you've not missed everything. I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna fill my tankard, and I will be right back. Just for you. Absolutely just for you, Lily. We're doing one more chapter just for you. Alright, well, I'll be right back, friends. Alright, friends, I have returned. MRI makes me freak out a little because they strap down my... Any of those big machines, especially since I'm such a wide man, I don't like being stuck in any sort of confined space. It's dreadful. Frog Lady had the real locket, Umbridge. Oh, that's right, Mary Beth. I'm still fighting myself on if Breed should get a shillelagh or not. Also, I really don't like how my anxiety is just making me feel like I'm being annoying today when I'm... No, you're fine, Matty. You are the chatterbox of the tavern. It would be weird if you were not chatty, for being honest. Castle, you are the only one who has welcomed me and Elsie in. We're here for you, Castle, and we enjoy your stories, shanties, and rambles. It's always a pleasure to have you, Esther. We enjoy your stories that you share with us as well, and all of the lovely fun that you have with us while we're here. Alright, shall we resume, my friends? We're not going to do any songs on the break this time. We're going to save them for the end. So we'll do 4 songs at the end. And we're going to do this, make sure we get this chapter in before everybody has to head off to bed. So, let us just delve right into it, boys and girls. Actually, let me start the music over from the beginning. I think I'm going to sleep. Good night, you all. Good night, Kayla. Rest well. I hope that you feel better, and I hope that you rise tomorrow ready to conquer the day. And please, 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 for all of us, take care of yourself, and thank you kindly for your generosity tonight. It means the world. So go rest, and we'll see you again come Sunday or Tuesday. Alright? So rest well. Alright, friends, let us begin. Chapter 26. The Cave. Had a good smell, salt, and hear rushing waves. A light, chilly breeze ruffled his hair as he looked out at a moonlit sea and a star-strewn sky. He was standing upon a high outcrop of a dark rock, water foaming and churning below him. He glanced over his shoulder. A towering cliff stood behind them, a sheer drop, black and faceless. A few large chunks of rock, such as the one upon which Harry and Dumbledore were standing, looked as though it had been broken away from the cliff face at some point in the past. It was a bleak, harsh view, the sea and the rocks unrelieved by any tree or sweep of grass or sand. "What do you think?" asked Dumbledore. He might have been asking Harry's opinion on to whether it was a good site for a picnic.
They brought kids from the orphanage here.
Asked Harry, who could not imagine a less cozy spot for a day trip. "Not here, precisely," said Dumbledore. "There's a village of sorts, halfway along the cliffs behind us. I believe the orphans were taken there for a little sea air and a view of the waves. No, I think it was only ever Tom Riddle and his youthful victims who visited this spot. No Muggle could reach this rock unless they were uncommonly good mountaineers, and boats cannot reach or approach the cliffs. The waters around them are too dangerous. Imagine that Riddle climbed down. Magic would have served better than ropes, and he brought 2 children with him, probably for the pleasure of terrorizing them. I think that Johnny alone would have done it, don't you?" Harry looked up at the cliff again and felt goosebumps. "But his final destination, and ours, lies a little further on. Come." Dumbledore beckoned Harry to the very edge of the rock, where a series of jagged niches made footholds along, leading down to boulders that lay half submerged in water and closer to the cliff. It was a treacherous descent, and Dumbledore, hampered slightly by his withered hand, moved slowly. The lower rocks were slippery with seawater, and he could feel flecks of cold salt spray hitting his face. "Lumos," said Dumbledore, as he reached the boulder closest to the cliff face. 1,000 flecks of golden light sparkled upon the surface of the water a few feet below. but he crouched. The black wall of rock beside them was illuminated too. "You see," said Dumbledore quietly, holding his wand a little higher. Harry saw a fissure in the cliff into which dark water was swirling. "You will not object to getting a little wet?" "No," said Harry. "Then take off your invisibility cloak. There is no need for it now. Let us take the plunge." And with the sudden agility of a much younger man, Dumbledore slid from the boulder, landed in the sea, and began to swim with a perfect breaststroke toward the dark slit in the rock face. His lit wand held in his teeth. Harry pulled off his cloak, stuffed it into his pocket, and followed. The water was icy. Harry's waterlogged clothes billowed around him and weighed him down. Taking deep breaths that filled his nostrils with a tang of salt and seaweed, he struck out for the shimmering, shrinking light, now moving deeper into the cliff. That's quite all right, Stephanie. It's probably been a long while since you've read the book. It's been forever. It's been over a decade since I've read the book, so... The snake is soulmates with Voldemort. Very, very close soulmates. You might call it a spiritual partnership. So, from my understanding, and I actually have a video that I'm doing about this later. The suggestion, I believe, from the Fantastic Beasts films is that Nagini is actually a woman who was cursed to turn into a snake. She had a blood curse that turned her into a snake, which is why she's so long-lived. So, Voldemort's snake is actually a woman who has a blood curse who became a snake. Yes, a Maledictus. Thank you, Matty. I appreciate you for that. Right, that was a shock. A very fascinating turn of lore too. Though it seems like it was something that was probably added posthumously after the series had already ended. It is very interesting to think about. I know my Fantastic Beasts. I hate the structure, but I like the movies. I really like the first one. I think that the whole controversy with Johnny Depp ended up marring the actual production of the film. Because they decided to take a stand on it and boot him out. But yeah, it was. The first one was very good. I don't think it was a good Harry Potter movie because you needed the context of all the other films to really enjoy it. But in the overall, I enjoyed it. I thought that it was fun. A nice look at the grander world. I wish they got the duel with Dumbledore and Grindelwald. Yeah, it would have been nice. All right, let's continue. The fissure soon opened into a dark tunnel that Harry could tell would be filled with water at high tide. The slimy walls were barely 3 feet apart and glimmered like wet tar in the passing light of Dumbledore's wand. A little way in, the passageway curved to the left, and Harry saw that it extended far into the cliff. He continued to swim in Dumbledore's wake, the tips of his benumbed fingers brushing the rough, wet rocks. Castle, I agree, we also enjoy the Fantastic Beasts film. Well, I'm quite glad you did, Esther. The one he won the old one, right, Matty. A woman, what do you mean, Stephanie? A woman scored? I'm not. Did I say something that? You have to forgive me. Occasionally, I'll say things and I forget immediately. I assume it was about Nagini. I don't understand the context. It says the snake, right? The Nagini was a cursed, had a blood curse. Matty called it a Maledictus. I don't know that term off the top of my head, but that sounds right. And she eventually became cursed to be a snake all the time, and that's why she's so long-lived. So she has the lifespan of a human, like oh, a woman scorned. A woman scorned. Right. That makes more sense. It was good old autocorrect got in the way there. A woman scorned. Thank you, Ashley, for the translation. I appreciate you. But I will say, as I learn to edit more and more, the more I despise Moana 2's story but still enjoyed it. The more you get into the art of storytelling, the more you're going to see that in a lot of things you used to love, Matty. You're going to find all kinds of stories where you're like, I used to love this thing, but now I'm really upset that all of these things are wrong with it, because if they'd just put in proper work, this could have been 10 times better. As people say that I tend to be a little bit too harsh on films and TV shows and books and whatnot, but I've been a storyteller most of my life, most of my adult life, anyways. I've worked in multiple areas that have to do with film and television and YouTube and games and all of these different things. I have been in the art of storytelling most of my life, and I like good stories, and I know what it takes to make a good story. And it's not even that I expect stories to be good, I just expect the minimum effort to be put in to respect a story when it is being told. And that tends to make people think that I hate most stories. I don't. I just wish that proper respect was being paid to those stories. Esther, you said the Fantastic Beasts film series was officially cancelled after the third installment, the sequels of Dumbledore. The decision was made due to the declining box office performance, poor reviews, and several controversies surrounding the franchise's cast and creators. Right, Esther. Just to make Matty hungry, because that's something that some of us can't resist doing. I had myself 2 sausages, 2 eggs, and a nice juicy rump of steak for lunch. That's a hell of a lunch, bear. Nagini Maldictus is a person that is like an animagus, but with a timer on how many times they can freely transform and eventually stuck as an animal. Bear, thank you for the drink, my friend. Here's, raise a glass. Alright, let's continue, friends. I stand by my opinion that books are way better. Usually, yeah. Like 9.5 times out of 10, the books are going to be better than whatever their adaptations are. There are a few instances where there are pretty good adaptations of a book, but rarely ever will you find a physical media where it's better than the book. Like, I've said before, I have my grievances with the Lord of the Rings films. I think they changed some things unnecessarily that didn't need to be changed, and it would not have cost them anything to leave them the same, and it would have vastly improved the flow and the logic of the films. But we've never seen a live action adaptation of any book that was done with as much respect and passion as the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. And even though a lot of the Harry Potter films are not necessarily done in proper respects, like there are a lot of things that are changed and altered, and they're probably going to do that a lot with a television show, but Rowling is overseeing that, so if she doesn't mind them bastardizing her work, that's her prerogative. But the fact that they made 7 or 8 films back to back to back, less than a year and a half apart each film, they made them back to back to back to back with no problems, no cancelling, no major conflicts that led to it. Like, it's truly an impressive feat the Harry Potter films were. Like, it's unprecedented, never happened before. So I really do like the Harry Potter, oh, not the Harry Potter films, the Lord of the Rings films for that, even though there are a bunch of things that they changed. Yeah, and The Hobbit changed a whole lot. Like, The Hobbit has its charms, but they changed so much in The Hobbit unnecessarily, and a lot of it irritates me. The unnecessary romance bugged the hell out of me. I have small meals, I cannot eat a lot like some people. The lady and I tend to eat very small meals too. Although I'm a large man, I still tend to eat very small meals for some reason. My book will not be turned into a movie or show without my direct involvement and creative control. And that's why a lot of good books don't ever get turned into movies or shows, because a lot of authors are like, I don't want to give away the creative freedom, and a lot of studios, unless they're allowed to do whatever they want with it, they won't turn it into a film or show. In fact, I trust you with adapting my book more than I do Hollywood Castle. If I ever get to a point where I have the means to do so, Matty, the lady and I would like to, along with the eventual building of the tavern and us getting an artisan village going so we can help to preserve the old arts. We would very much like to have a tavern studio where we create games and movies and shows and books and comics and all of the things that are done in the proper and traditional way of storytelling. That's what we'd like to do. Now, whether or not we'll ever get there, who knows? But that's the plan. Every step that we grow, we have plans for things that we will make for all of you. And it's just a matter of what marks we get to. Well, then we'll just have to do our best to get there. Man, I haven't seen you in a while. How's it going, Floofy? It has been a while. But I'm glad you made it back to the tavern. If you're not too busy, grab yourself a seat. We're in the midst of a chapter. I need to get back because I've been waffling for a bit. I just write for my own pleasure. As do I. I never actually intended any of my stories to ever be published. I wrote them for myself and for my little brother. But the tavern community has put a lot of pressure on getting to see the stories that the lady and I write, so why not? Why not? I don't have any opposition to showing them. I just don't believe that I'm necessarily a good enough storyteller to justify the sharing of them, but Floofy, thank you for the "you're awesome, my friend." I appreciate you for that. Thank you kindly. Alright, let's continue. Fill your mugs. Settle in. Positive thoughts. Only positive thoughts, Stephanie. Only positive thoughts. I'm glad you enjoy Esther. Obviously, I don't mind certain parts being as they might have to be. My phone just spasmed big time. Did I miss it? No. You're good. I was waffling there for a bit, so you're fine. Alright, let's see. The slimy walls were barely 3 feet apart and glimmered like wet tar in the passing light of Dumbledore's wand. A little way in, the passageway curved to the left, and Harry saw that it extended far into the cliff. He continued to swim in Dumbledore's wake, the tips of his benumbed fingers brushing the rough, wet rock. Then he saw Dumbledore rising out of the water ahead, his silver hair and dark robes gleaming. When Harry reached the spot, he found the steps that led into a large cave. He clambered up them, water streaming from his soaked clothes, and emerged, shivering uncontrollably, into the still and freezing air. Dumbledore was standing in the middle of the cave, his wand held high, and he turned slowly on the spot, examining the walls and ceiling. "Yes, this is the place," said Dumbledore.
How can you tell?
Harry spoke in a whisper. "It has known magic," said Dumbledore simply. Harry could not tell whether the shivers he was experiencing was due to his spine-deep coldness or due to the awareness of enchantments. He watched as Dumbledore continued to revolve on the spot, evidently concentrating on things Harry could not see. "This is merely the antechamber, the entrance hall," said Dumbledore, after a moment or two. "We will need to penetrate the inner place. Now it is Lord Voldemort's obstacles that stand in our way, rather than those nature made." Dumbledore approached the wall of the cave and caressed it with his blackened fingertips, murmuring 2 words in a strange tongue that Harry did not understand. Twice Dumbledore walked right around the cave, touching as much of the rough rock as he could, occasionally pausing and running his fingers backwards and forwards over a particular spot, until finally he stopped, his hand pressed flat against the wall. "Here," he said. "We go on through here. The entrance is concealed." Harry did not ask how Dumbledore knew. He had never seen a wizard work things out like this, simply by looking and touching. but Harry had long since learned that bangs and smokes were more often marks of ineptitude than expertise. Dumbledore stepped back from the cave wall and pointed his wand at the rock. For a moment, an arched outline appeared there, blazing white as though there was a powerful light behind the crack.
You've done it,
said Harry through chattering teeth. But before the words had left his lips, the outline had gone, leaving the rock as bare and solid as ever. Dumbledore looked around. Harry, so sorry. I forgot. He pointed his wand at Harry at once, and Harry's clothes were warm and dry, as if they'd been hanging in front of a blazing fire.
Thank you,
said Harry gratefully, but Dumbledore had already turned his attention back to the solid cave wall. He did not try any more magic, but simply stood there staring at it intently, as though something extremely interesting was written on it. Harry stayed quite still. He did not want to break Dumbledore's concentration. Then, after 2 solid minutes, Dumbledore said quietly, surely not so crude.
What is it, Professor?
I rather think, said Dumbledore, putting his uninjured hand into his robes and drawing out a short silver knife, the kind Harry used to chop potion ingredients, that we are required to make payment to pass.
Payment? Said Harry. You've got to give the door something.
Yes, said Dumbledore. Blood, if I am not much mistaken.
Blood?
I said it was crude, said Dumbledore, who sounded disdainful and even disappointed, as though Voldemort had fallen short of the standards Dumbledore expected. The idea, as I am sure you have gathered, that your enemy must weaken him or herself to enter. Once again, what Voldemort fails to grasp, there are much more terrible things than physical injury.
Yeah, but still, if you can avoid it,
said Harry, who had experienced enough pain not to be keen for more. Sometimes, however, it is unavoidable, said Dumbledore, shaking back his sleeve of his robes, exposing his forearm of his injured hand.
Professor,
Harry protested, hurrying forward as Dumbledore raised his knife.
I'll do it,
He did not know what he was going to say. Younger, fitter, but Dumbledore merely smiled. There was a flash of silver and a spurt of scarlet. The rock face was peppered with the dark, glistening drops. Very kind, Harry, said Dumbledore, now passing the tip of his wand over the deep cut he had made in his own arm so that it healed instantly, just as Snape had healed Malfoy's wounds. Your blood is worth more than mine. Seems to have done the trick, doesn't it? The blazing silver outline of an arch had appeared in the wall once more, and this time it did not fade away. The blood-splattered rock within it simply vanished, leaving an opening into what seemed total darkness. After me, I think, said Dumbledore, and he walked through the archway with Harry on his heels, lighting his own wand hastily as he went. And any sight met their eyes. They were standing on the edge of a great black lake, so vast that Harry could not make out the distant banks in a cavern so high that the ceiling was out of sight. A misty greenish light shone far away and looked like the middle of the lake. It was reflected in the completely still water below. The greenish glow and the light from the 2 wands were the only things that broke the otherwise velvety blackness through their rays, though the rays did not penetrate as far as Harry would have expected. The darkness was somehow denser than normal darkness. Let us walk, said Dumbledore quietly. Be very careful not to step into the water. Stay close to me. He set off around the edge of the lake, and Harry followed close behind. The footsteps made echoing, slapping sounds on the narrow rim of the rock that surrounded the water. On and on they walked, but the view did not vary. On one side of them, a rough cavern wall, and on the other side, the boundless expanse of smooth, glassy blackness, and in the very middle of which was that mysterious greenish glow. Harry found the place and silence oppressive, unnerving.
Professor,
he said finally.
Do you think the Horcrux is here?
Oh, yes, said Dumbledore. Yes, I'm sure it is. The question is, how do we get to it?
We couldn't just try a summoning charm.
Harry said, sure that it was a stupid suggestion. But he was much keener than he was prepared to admit on getting out of this place as soon as possible. We certainly could, said Dumbledore, stopping so suddenly that Harry almost walked into him. Why don't you do it?
Me? Oh, okay.
Harry had not expected this, but he cleared his throat and said loudly, wand aloft.
Accio Horcrux!
And with a noise like an explosion, something very large and pale erupted out of the water, some 20 feet away. Before Harry could see what it was, it had vanished again, with a crashing splash that made a great, deep ripple in the mirrored surface. Harry leapt backward in shock and hit the wall. His heart was thundering as he turned to Dumbledore.
What was that?
Something, I think, that is ready to respond should we attempt to seize the Horcrux. Harry looked back at the water. The surface of the lake was once more shining black glass. The ripples had vanished unnaturally fast. Harry's heart, however, was still pounding.
Did you think that would happen, sir?
I thought something would happen. We made an obvious attempt to get our hands on the Horcrux. That was a very good idea, Harry. Much simpler way of finding out what we are facing.
But we don't know what that thing was,
said Harry, looking at the cisternly smooth water. What things are, you mean? Said Dumbledore. Very much doubt that there is only one of them. Shall we walk on?
Professor.
Yes, Harry.
Do you think we're going to have to go into the lake?
Into it? Only if we are very unfortunate.
You don't think the Horcrux is at the bottom?
Oh no. I think the Horcrux is in the middle. And Dumbledore pointed towards the misty green light in the center of the lake.
So we're going to have to cross the lake to get it?
Yes, I think so. Harry did not say anything. His thoughts were all of water monsters, of giant serpents, of demons, kelpies, and sprites. See, this is why we don't go into water. This is why we do not go into the water, this right here. This exact moment that we are experiencing in the story in front of us is why you don't go in the water. Precisely that. Your waffling is fantastic in so many ways. It's fun to listen to and helps when I'm late. Yes, indeed, it could do that. Okay, I'm on my computer now. That was weird. Oh, swim, kelpies sound lovely. They're always lovely until they drown you. It's the same thing with mermaids and sirens. They're all lovely until they drown you. That's the beauty of them, right? Matty, your favorite song is about how excited they are to drown us when we get out into the water. And I just wanted to make sure I hadn't missed anyone else coming in or going. Alright. We're good. Alright. Aha! Said Dumbledore, and he stopped again. This time, Harry really did walk into him. For a moment, he toppled on the edge of the dark water. And Dumbledore's uninjured hand closed tightly around his upper arm, pulling him back. So sorry, Harry. Should have given you warning. Stand back against the wall, please. Think I found the place. Harry had no idea what Dumbledore meant. This patch of dark bank was exactly like every other bit as far as he could tell. But Dumbledore seemed to have detected something special about it. This time he was running his hand over the rocky wall, but through the thin air, as though expecting to find and grip something invisible. "Ho ho!" said Dumbledore happily, seconds later. His hand had closed in mid-air upon something Harry could not see. Dumbledore moved closer to the water, and Harry watched nervously as the tips of Dumbledore's buckled shoes found the utmost edge of the rock rim. Keeping his hand clenched in mid-air, Dumbledore raised his wand with the other, tapped his fist with the point. Immediately, a thick, coppery green chain appeared out of thin air, extending from the depths of the water into Dumbledore's clenched hand. Dumbledore tapped the chain, which began to slide through his fist like a snake, coiling itself on the ground with a clinking sound that echoed noisily off the rocky walls, pulling something from the depth of the black water. Harry gasped as a ghostly prow of a tiny boat broke the surface, glowing as green as the chain, and floated with barely a ripple toward the place on the bank where Harry and Dumbledore stood.
How did you know that was there?
Harry asked in astonishment.
"Magic always leaves traces,"
said Dumbledore as the boat hit the bank with a gentle bump.
"Sometimes very distinct traces. I taught Tom Riddle. I know his style."
Is the boat safe?
"Oh yes, I think so. Voldemort needed to create a means of crossing the lake without attracting the wrath of those creatures he had placed within it, in case he ever wanted to visit or remove his Horcrux. So the things in the water won't do anything to us if we cross in Voldemort's boat."
Oh, that was Harry.
So the things won't do anything to us if we cross in Voldemort's boat?
"I think we must resign ourselves to the fact that they will at some point realize we are not Lord Voldemort. Thus far, however, we have done well. They have allowed us to raise the boat."
But why have they let us?
said Harry, who could not shake off the vision of tentacles rising out of the dark water the moment they were out of sight of the bank.
"Voldemort would have been reasonably confident that none but a very great wizard would have been able to find the boat," said Dumbledore. "I think he would have been prepared to risk what was, to his mind, the most unlikely possibility that somebody else would find it, knowing that he had set other obstacles ahead that only he would be able to penetrate. We shall see whether he is right."
Harry looked down into the boat. It really was very small. Okay, so the ring has been destroyed already. Just trying to keep the order correct in my head. Right. The ring and the journal have been destroyed. And now we have what, 4 more, because the 5th one is Voldemort himself. Alright.
It doesn't look like it was built for 2 people. Will it hold us both?
"Will we be too heavy together?"
Dumbledore chuckled.
"Voldemort will not have cared about the weight, but the amount of magical power across this lake. I rather think an enchantment will be placed on this boat so that only one wizard at a time will be able to sail in it.
But then,
I do not think you will count, Harry. You are underage and unqualified. Voldemort would never have expected a 16-year-old to reach this place. I think it's unlikely that your powers will register compared to mine."
These words did nothing to raise Harry's morale. Perhaps Dumbledore knew it, for he added,
"Voldemort's mistake, Harry. Voldemort's mistake. Age is foolish, forgetful, when it underestimates youth. Now you first this time. Be careful. Do not touch the water."
Dumbledore stood aside and Harry climbed carefully into the boat. Dumbledore stepped in too, coiling the chain onto the floor. They were crammed in together. Harry could not comfortably sit, but crouched, his knees jutting over the edge of the boat. which began to move at once. There was no sound other than the silken rustle of the boat's prow cleaving the water. It moved without their help, as though an invisible rope was tied and was pulling it onward towards the light in the center. Soon they could no longer see the walls of the cavern. They might have been at sea, except for there was no waves. Harry looked down and saw the reflected gold of his wand light sparkling and glittering in the black water as they passed. The boat was carving deep ripples into the glassy surface, grooves in the dark mirror. And then Harry saw it, marble white, floating inches below the surface. "Professor!" he said, and his startled voice echoed loudly over the silent water. "Harry?"
I think I saw a hand in the water. A human hand.
"Yes, sure you did," said Dumbledore calmly. Harry stared down into the water, looking for the vanished hand, and a sick feeling rose in his throat.
So that thing that jumped out of the water.
But Harry had his answer before Dumbledore could reply. The wand light had slid over a fresh patch of water and showed him, this time, a dead man, lying face up inches beneath the surface. His open eyes misted as though with cobwebs, his hair and robes swirling around him like smoke.
"There are bodies in here,"
said Harry, and his voice sounded much higher than usual, and most unlike his own. "Yes," said Dumbledore placidly, "but we do not need to worry about them at the moment."
"At the moment?"
Harry repeated, tearing his gaze from the water to look at Dumbledore. "Not while they are merely drifting peacefully below us," said Dumbledore. "There is nothing to fear from a body, Harry, any more than there is anything to be feared from the darkness. Lord Voldemort, who, of course, secretly fears both, disagrees. Once again, reveals his own lack of wisdom. It is the unknown we fear. When we look upon death and darkness, nothing more."
But he said nothing. He did not want to argue, but he found the idea that there were bodies floating around them and beneath him horrible, and what was more, he did not believe they were not dangerous. "But one of them jumped," he said, trying to make his own voice as level and calm as Dumbledore's. "When I tried to summon the Horcrux, a body leapt out of the lake."
"Yes," said Dumbledore. "I am sure that once we take the Horcrux, we will find them less peaceable. However, like many creatures that dwell in cold and darkness, they fear light and warmth, which we shall therefore call to our aid, should the need arise. Fire, Harry," Dumbledore added with a smile in response to Harry's bewildered expression.
"Oh, right,"
said Harry quickly. He turned his head to look at the greenish glowing toward which the boat was now still inexorably sailing. He could not pretend now that he was not scared. The great black lake teeming with the dead. It seemed hours and hours ago that he had met Professor Trelawney, that he had given Ron and Hermione Felix Felicis. He suddenly wished he had said a better goodbye then, and he hadn't seen Ginny at all. "Nearly there," said Dumbledore cheerfully. Sure enough, the greenish light seemed to be growing larger at last, and within minutes the boat had come to a halt, bumping gently into something that Harry could not see at first. But when he raised his illuminated wand, he saw that they had reached a small island of smooth rock in the center of the lake. "Careful not to touch the water," said Dumbledore again as Harry climbed out of the boat. The island was no larger than Dumbledore's office, an expanse of flat, dark stone on which stood nothing but the source of the greenish light, which looked much brighter when viewed close to him. Harry squinted at it at first. He thought it was a lamp of some kind. But then he saw that the light was coming from a stone basin, rather like a pensieve, which was set on top of a pedestal. Dumbledore approached the basin and Harry followed. Side by side they looked down into it. The basin was full of an emerald green liquid emitting a phosphorescent glow.
What is it?
Asked Harry quietly. I'm not sure, said Dumbledore. Something more worrisome than blood and bodies, however. Dumbledore pushed back his sleeve of his robe over his blackened hand, stretched out the tip of his fingers towards the surface of the potion.
No, sir, don't touch.
I cannot touch, said Dumbledore, smiling faintly. See, I cannot approach any nearer than this. You try. Staring, Harry put his hand into the basin and attempted to touch the potion. He met an invisible barrier that prevented him from coming within an inch of it. No matter how hard he pushed, his fingers encountered nothing but what seemed to be solid, inflexible air. Out of the way, please, Harry, said Dumbledore as he raised his wand and made complicated movements over the surface of the potion, murmuring soundlessly. Nothing happened, except perhaps that the potion glowed a little brighter. Harry remained silent while Dumbledore worked. But after a while, Dumbledore withdrew his wand, and Harry felt it was safe to talk again.
You think the Horcrux is in there, sir?
Oh, yes. Dumbledore peered more closely into the basin. Harry saw his face reflected, upside down in the smooth surface of the green potion. How to reach it? This potion cannot be penetrated by hand, vanished, parted, scooped up, siphoned away, nor can it be transfigured, charmed, or otherwise made to change its nature. Almost absent-mindedly, Dumbledore raised his wand again, swirled it in midair, and then caught the goblet that he had conjured out of nowhere. I can only conclude that this potion is supposed to be drunk.
What?
Said Harry.
No.
Yes, I think so. Only by drinking it can I empty the basin and see what lies in its depths.
But what if it kills you?
Oh, I doubt it would work like that, said Dumbledore easily. Lord Voldemort would not want to kill the person who reached this island. Harry couldn't believe it. Was this more of Dumbledore's insane determination to see good in everyone?
Sir,
said Harry, trying to keep his voice reasonable.
So this is Voldemort, Will.
Sorry, Harry. I should have said he would not want to immediately kill the person who reached this island. Dumbledore corrected himself. He would want to keep them alive long enough to find out how they managed to penetrate so far through his defenses and, most importantly of all, why they were so intent upon emptying the basin. Do not forget, Lord Voldemort believes that he alone knows about his Horcruxes. Harry made to speak again, but this time Dumbledore raised his hand for silence, frowning slightly at the emerald liquid, evidently thinking hard. Undoubtedly, he said finally, potion must act in a way that will prevent me from taking the Horcrux. Might paralyze me, cause me to forget where I am, what I am here for, create so much pain I am distracted, or render me incapable in some other way. This being the case, Harry, it will be your job to make sure I keep drinking, even if you have to tip the potion to my protesting mouth. You understand? Their eyes met over the basin, each pale face lit with strange green light. Harry did not speak. Was this why he'd been invited along? So he could force-feed Dumbledore a potion that might cause him unendurable pain. You remember, said Dumbledore, the condition on which I brought you with me? Harry hesitated. Madison Quinn, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. Welcome to the tavern. So very glad that you could join us. Grab your seat. Settle in, fill your mug. Welcome. Where were we? You swore, did you not, to follow any command I gave you?
Yes, but...
I warned you, did I not, that there might be danger?
Yes, said Harry, but...
Well then, said Dumbledore, shaking back his sleeves once more and raising the empty goblet. You have my orders.
Why can't I drink the potion instead?
Asked Harry desperately. Because I am much older, much cleverer, much less valuable, said Dumbledore. Once and for all, Harry, do I have your word that you will do all in your power to make me keep drinking?
Couldn't.
Do I have it? But your word, Harry.
All right, but
Before Harry could make any further protest, Dumbledore lowered the crystal goblet into the potion. For a split second, Harry hoped that he would not be able to touch the potion with the goblet. But the crystal sank into the surface as nothing else had. Then the glass was full to the brim. Dumbledore lifted it to his mouth. Your good health, Harry! And he drained the goblet. Harry watched terrified as his hands gripping the rim of the basin so hard that his fingertips were numb.
Professor,
He said anxiously as Dumbledore lowered the empty glass.
how do you feel?
Dumbledore shook his head, his eyes closed. Harry wondered whether he was in pain. Dumbledore plunged the glass blindly back into the basin, refilled it, and drank it once more. In silence, Dumbledore drank 3 gobletfuls of potion. Then, halfway through the 4th goblet, he staggered and fell forward against the basin. His eyes were still closed, his breathing heavy.
Professor Dumbledore,
Said Harry, his voice strained.
can you hear me?
Dumbledore did not answer. His face was twitching as though he was deeply asleep, but dreaming a horrible dream. Harry gripped the goblet. His grip on the goblet was slackening. The potion was about to spill from it. Harry reached forward and grasped the crystal cup, holding it steady.
Professor, can you hear me?
He repeated loudly, his voice echoing around the cavern. Dumbledore panted and then spoke in a voice Harry did not recognize. But he had never heard Dumbledore frightened like this. I don't want. Don't make me. Harry stared into the whitened face he knew so well, at the crooked nose and half-moon spectacles, and did not know what to do. Don't I want to stop? Moaned Dumbledore.
You can't stop, Professor,
Said Harry.
You've got to keep drinking, remember? You told me you had to keep drinking. Here.
Hating himself, repulsed by what he was doing, Harry forced the goblet back towards Dumbledore's mouth and tipped it, so that Dumbledore drank the remainder of the potion inside. No! He groaned as Harry lowered the goblet back into the basin and refilled it for him. I don't want to. I don't want to. Let me go.
It's all right, Professor,
Said Harry, his hand shaking.
It's all right. I'm here.
Make it stop. Make it stop, moaned Dumbledore.
Yes. This will make it stop.
Lied Harry, and he tipped the contents of the goblet into Dumbledore's open mouth. Dumbledore screamed. The noise echoed all around the vast chamber, across the dead black water. No! 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 I can't! Don't make me! I don't want to!
It's all right, Professor. It's all right.
Said Harry loudly, his hands shaking so badly he could hardly scoop up the 6th gobletful of potion. The basin was now half empty.
Nothing's happening to you. You're safe. It isn't real, I swear. It isn't real. Take this now. Take this.
And obediently Dumbledore drank, as though it was an antidote Harry offered him. But upon draining the goblet, he sank to his knees, shaking uncontrollably. It's all my fault! All my fault! He sobbed. Please, make it stop! I know I did wrong! Please, make it stop! I'll never again!
This will make it stop, Professor.
Harry said, his voice cracking as he tipped the 7th glass of potion into Dumbledore's mouth. Dumbledore began to cower as though invisible torturers surrounded him. His flailing hand almost knocked the refilled goblet from Harry's trembling hands as he moaned. Don't hurt them! Don't hurt them, please! Please! It's my fault! Hurt me instead!
Here. Drink this. Drink this. You'll be all right.
Said Harry desperately, and once again Dumbledore obeyed him, opening his mouth even as he kept his eyes shut tight and shook from head to foot. And now he fell forward, screaming again, hammering his fists upon the ground, while Harry filled the 9th goblet. Please, please, please. No, not that. Not that. I'll do anything. Just drink, Professor. Just drink. Dumbledore drank like a child dying of thirst. But when he had finished, he yelled again as though his insides were on fire. No more, please. No more. Harry scooped a 10th goblet full of potion, and he felt the crystal scrape the bottom of the basin. We're nearly there, Professor. Drink this. Drink it. They supported Dumbledore's shoulders again, and Dumbledore drained the glass. Then Harry was on his feet once more, refilling the goblet, as Dumbledore began to scream in a more anguished than ever. I want to die! I want to die! Please make it stop! Make it stop! I want to die! Drink this, Professor. Drink this. Dumbledore drank, and no sooner had he finished than he yelled, Kill me! This one will, gasped Harry. Just drink this. It'll be over. All over. Dumbledore gulped the goblet, drained every last drop, and then, with a great rattling gasp, rolled over onto his face. No! Shouted Harry, who had stood to refill the goblet again. Instead, he dropped the cup into the basin and flung himself down beside Dumbledore, and heaved him over onto his back. Dumbledore's glasses were askew, his mouth agape, his eyes closed. No! Said Harry, shaking Dumbledore. No, you're not dead. You said it wasn't poison. Wake up! Wake up! Renovate! He cried, his wand pointing at Dumbledore's chest. There was a flash of red light, but nothing happened. Renovate, sir! Please! Dumbledore's eyelids flickered, and Harry's heart leapt. Sir, are you... Water! croaked Dumbledore. Water, panted Harry. Yes! He leapt to his feet and seized the goblet he had dropped in the basin. He barely registered the golden locket lying cold beneath it. Augmenti! He shouted, jabbing the goblet with his wand, and the goblet filled with clear water. Harry dropped to his knees beside Dumbledore and raised his head, and brought the glass to his lips, but it was empty. Dumbledore groaned and began to pant. But I had some. Wait! Augmenti! And Harry again pointing his wand at the goblet once more, and for a second, clear water gleamed within it. But as it approached Dumbledore's mouth, the water vanished again. Sir, I'm trying, said Harry desperately, but he did not think that Dumbledore could hear him. He rolled onto his side and was drawing great rattling breaths that sounded agonizing. Augmenti! 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 The goblet filled and emptied once more, and now Dumbledore's breathing was fading. His brain whirling in panic, Harry knew instinctively the only way left to get water, because Voldemort had planned it so. He flung himself over the edge of the rock and plunged the goblet into the lake, bringing up a full brim of icy water that did not vanish. Sir, here! Harry yelled, and he flung forward and tipped the water clumsily over Dumbledore's face. It was the best he could do, for the icy feeling on his arm, not holding the cup, was not the lingering chill of water, but the slimy white hand that gripped his wrist, and the creature to whom it belonged was pulling him slowly backward across the rock. The surface of the lake was no longer mirror smooth, it was churning, and everywhere Harry looked, white heads and hands were emerging from the dark water. Men and women and children with sunken, sightless eyes were moving forward toward the rock, an army of dead rising from the black water. Petrificus totalis! Yelled Harry, struggling to cling to the smooth, soaked surface of the island. As he pointed his wand at the Inferius that had his arm, it released him, falling backward into the water with a splash. He scrambled to his feet, but many more Inferi were already climbing onto the rock, their bony hands clawing at its slippery surface. their blank, frosted eyes upon him, trailing waterlogged rags, sunken faces leering.
Pacificus Totalis!
Harry bellowed again, backing away as he swiped his wand through the air. 6 or 7 of them crumpled, but more were coming toward him.
Impedimentia! Incarcerus!
A few of them stumbled, 1 or 2 of them bound in ropes, but those climbed onto the rocks behind them merely stepped over on their fallen bodies. Still slashing the air with his wand, Harry yelled, Sectum Sempra! Sectum Sempra! But through gashes appeared in their sodden rags and icy skins. They had no blood to spill. They walked on, unfeeling, their shrunken hands outstretched toward him. And as he backed away still farther, he felt arms enclose him from behind. Thin, fleshless arms, cold as death. And his feet left the ground as they lifted him and began to carry him slowly and surely back to the water. And he knew there would be no release, and that he would be drowned, become one more dead guardian of a fragment of Voldemort's shattered soul. But then, through the darkness, fire erupted. Crimson and gold, a ring of fire that surrounded the rocks, so that the Inferi holding Harry so tightly stumbled and faltered. They did not dare pass through the flames to get to the water. They dropped Harry, and he hit the ground, slipped on the rock, and fell, grazing his arms, but stumbled back up, raising his wand and staring around. Dumbledore was on his feet again, pale as any of the surrounding Inferi, but taller than any two. The fire dancing in his eyes, his wand was raised like a torch. From the tip, it emanated the flames, like a vast lasso encircling them all with warmth. The Inferi bumped into each other, attempting blindly to escape the fire in which they were enclosed. Dumbledore scooped the locket from the bottom of the stone basin and stowed it inside of his robes. Wordlessly, he gestured to Harry to come to his side. Distracted by the flames, the Inferi seemed unaware that their quarry was leaving as Dumbledore held Harry and led him back to the boat. The ring of fire moving with them, around them, the bewildered Inferi accompanying them to the water's edge, where they slipped gratefully back into their dark waters. Glad I saw your message, Bear. Thank you kindly for that. This is one of the most powerful chapters. I agree. This is very much like what chapter am I thinking of? The one in the third book. Over on Twitch real quick, we're gonna run the ads so we can have an hour without them. I'll be right back. So we're gonna take a quick 3-minute reprieve. I want to take a drink. Castle, I know you didn't see my good news, but I'm going through the process of buying my first... spectacular, Marina! Just in time for your birthday, too. Hell yes. Kemian, hello, hello. Crystal, it is very intense. Me after that 4th glass of lime. Misplaced appellation, hello, good to see you, welcome in. Johnny phone called, and I have written a letter. We have exhausted our ideas and cannot meet them in person. Oh, you guys are having a completely different conversation, I see. That's alright, Kevin, it happens. Luckily you can go back and enjoy it in retrospect. It's the beauty of the internet. The internet is forever. This is ATO, Castle. What is ATO? Is ATO a band? What is ATO, Esther? I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm 2 calls away from getting my air conditioning certification at work. Spectacular, Titan. That's good news. On the up and up always. Oh, Australian taxation. Oh, that would explain why I didn't know what it was. 1, don't particularly care for taxes. 2, not Australian. So I wouldn't have known that. I try to do everything I can to avoid taxes. On principle. It's one of my reasons for loving America. I will destroy an entire tea shop over taxes. I'm still here just keeping up on laundry and dishes. That's alright, Christy. Storytime is perfect for the background for these sort of things. You're learning from Toph, Castle? We should all learn from Toph, Matty. I don't know particularly what you're talking about, but we should all learn from Toph. It's annoying taxes overcharged here, Castle. Indeed they do. I know that she taught tax fraud. Well, I mean, you kind of got it right. I mean, for anybody who's watching, all of this is said in jest. I'm completely joking, but yeah, part of the Australian Department of Treasury. Any government foundation that has to do with money, you automatically know that they are probably one of the most inefficient and bold-backed blubbery that you could possibly get anywhere. The government and money never equates to fair or efficient ever. Period. That's not a political point. That's not a political opinion. That is a verifiable fact. Then I move on to my high-pressure fuel system certification. That is spectacular. Johnny pays high taxes is ridiculously stupid. I could only imagine. You worked for them for 12 years, so you know firsthand, Bear. You know firsthand. Katara taught kids to help out. Aang taught compassion. Sokka taught determination. Toph, she taught tax fraud. Applicable. Perfect. As it ought to be. We should all learn a little bit of tax fraud. I said jokingly, not at all being serious. Wink wink, nudge nudge. You all get it. Marina, thank you kindly for the bits. Tips to the tavern keeper. Always appreciated. What was you? Enjoy your sproutling pie there. Looks delicious. Looks very fresh, for being honest. Alright, the ads are finished. Let us finish the story. It was getting a little bit intense there before we took a break, so let's carry on. There absolutely isn't. Which is why they should have as little of it as possible, Vampire. Alright. Let us continue. Harry, who was shaking all over, thought for a moment that Dumbledore might not be able to climb into the boat. He staggered a little on as he attempted it. All his efforts seemed to be going into maintaining the ring of protective flame around him. Harry seized him and helped him back to his seat. Once they were both safely jammed inside again, the boat began to move back across the black water, away from the rock, still encircled by that ring of fire. And it seemed that the Inferi swarming below them did not dare resurface. Mind you, the section I worked for was responsible for production and distribution of forums. I worked very hard there. I'm sure you did, Bear. I'm sure you did. You're an upright and honest man.
Sir, panted Harry. Sir, I forgot about fire. They were coming at me and I panicked.
Quite understandable, murmured Dumbledore. Harry was alarmed to hear how faint his voice was. They reached the bank with a little bump and Harry leapt out and then turned quickly to help Dumbledore. The moment that Dumbledore reached the bank, he let his wand hand fall. The ring of fire vanished, but the Inferi did not emerge again from the water. The little boat sank into the water once more, clanking and tinkling. Its chain slithered back into the leg too. Dumbledore gave a great sigh and leaned against the cavern wall. "I'm weak," he said.
Don't worry, sir,
said Harry at once, anxious about Dumbledore's extreme pallor and his air of exhaustion.
Don't worry. I'll get us back. Lean on me, sir.
and pulling Dumbledore's uninjured arm around his shoulders, Harry guided his headmaster back to the lake, bearing most of his own weight. The protection was, after all, well designed, said Dumbledore faintly. One alone could not have done it. You did very well, Harry.
Don't talk now,
said Harry, fearing how slow Dumbledore's voice had become, how much his feet dragged.
Save your energy, sir. We'll be out of here soon.
The archway will have sealed again. My knife.
There's no need. I got cut on the rock,
said Harry firmly.
Just tell me where.
Here. Harry wiped his grazed forearm on the stone. Having received its tribute of blood, the archway reopened instantly. They crossed the outer cave, and Harry helped Dumbledore back into the icy seawater that filled the crevice of the cliff.
Are you going to be all right, sir?
Harry said over and over again, more worried by Dumbledore's silence than he had been by his weakened voice.
We're nearly there. I can operate us both back. Don't worry.
I'm not worried, Harry, said Dumbledore, his voice a little stronger despite the freezing water. I am with you. And so ends Chapter 26 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, my friends. What an absolutely devastating chapter for us. I'm not worried, I'm with you. Yeah, that's a powerful bit there. It's very good. Absolutely very good. All right, my friends, what do we say to getting... What's going on here? Alright, we're gonna pull you down for a moment. That chapter always highlights how much he hides from Potter. It does. It does. How much he regrets how isolated he made himself in the way that he dealt with things. Thank you for reading. Time for sleep. LOL. Good night, very much. You're usually asleep much earlier than this, so I'm glad you stuck with us. But yes, you should be off to bed, that's for sure. Off to bed with you. Now, real quick to everyone who is fresh and new here, if you've just now joined us, I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a bedtime story. We open these portals into the tavern 3 to 4 times a week for stories on spending time talking about stories and mythology and history, myth and lore and tales of yore, as we like to say. So you can pick your preferred platform. There are links over in the tavern bio where you can find various ways to mark the tavern on your map by following the different portals that you can enter in through. I have 1 more week of vacation. Hey, spectacular! That means you'll get 3 more story times uninterrupted before your vacation is ended. That's a hell of a thing. I think you'll love what I've done with Cassandra Castle. She's definitely been fixed, but I'm actively editing her off stream. I look forward to seeing it, Matty. I look forward to seeing it. Castle, Elsie, and I always enjoy your stories, shanties, and rambles. It's always a pleasure to bring them to you, Esther. Alright, I think it is time that we do some singing, some songs. How about that? We'll do a few songs and then I will send you all off out into the world to rejoin society, as unfortunate as that is. This song is actually let's see. This comes from a playlist of copyright-free music, because TikTok and YouTube and Twitch all get. This is called Watch Hill by Wicked Cinema. I'll put that in. It's called Watch Hill by Wicked Cinema. Belinda, it's always my pleasure. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you kindly. I just don't want to edit her on my streams to keep the edits on Cassandra surprise. That's fair. You do want to keep a little bit of that as a surprise for when people finally get to read the actual book, Matty. Nothing wrong with that. Bear, you said myth and lore and tales of yore. That's what's written on the back of the hoodie I'm wearing right now. Hell yes, Bear. You're wearing your tavern uniform because you're here to barkeep, right? We could do Moby Duck. I don't mind Moby Duck. Do we have any other requests? By the way, for any of you who are new, usually in between chapters and at the end, we will sing shanties and ballads together as a part of the tradition of the tavern. So if you have any shanties or ballads you would like to sing, if I know them, I will sing them. If I don't know them, we'll add it to the list of things coming up. Tyson says, hoist up the thing. Bear says, Moby Duck. Well, it sounds like we're having a funny night tonight. I think Esther will probably request Misty Mountain. I think that's very likely. So let's start with hoist up the thing, and then we'll... And Kemian says Valhalla Calling. All right, that's our 4. Well, now Matty says the Scotsman. All right, we'll do 5, but that's it. We're going to do 5 tonight. We'll do the funny ones first, then we'll do Valhalla Calling to scare off all of our new friends, and then we'll end on Misty Mountain. I think that's spectacular. I didn't see Esther. I predicted that before you said it. Because I'm magical. Oh, and Marina says sick note. Okay, so speaking of barkeeping, are we having a staff meeting tomorrow or day after? The day after, Bear. So Saturday my time, which would be probably Sunday your time. Maybe, perhaps. It'll be in 2 days. 2 days from today. All right. Let's do. As you know, Elsie always requests Misty Mountain. Indeed. We'll do Hoist Up the Thing first. Now, the rule for Shanty Time is if you know the lyrics, you have to sing along. It's as simple as that. We are in a tavern after all, so if we're all going to be joined together with some music, we sing together. Alright, so this is Hoist Up the Thing by The Longest Johns. I'm having some technical difficulties. Hang on. Alright, here we go. Fresh out of college with grades straight from hell, I browse for a trade at which I could excel. An ad for a ship in need of some manning, men sails in purpose but lacking a captain. What luck, says I, to find such good fortune. A few white lies later, I ran down the pier. I bought me a coat and a cutlass or two. I jumped on the deck and I yelled at the crew. Hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it? What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port. That's not port. Now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. I can't sing the shanties, it has to be said, and all of that grog just goes right to me head. Whale meat is gross, and I miss a girl's laugh. 5 weeks at sea, and even Dave seems to catch. Hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it? What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port. That's not port. Now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. We've hit icy waters, no land to be seen. The food's getting low and the beer it's gone green. There's murmurs of discontent under the deck. If I don't ask fast, it could be my neck. So pull up the charts and those weird gold machines. I see what it says, but I've no clue what it means. Just Just pull on some levers and yank on some chains and fade a bad back till we've landed again. Hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it? What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port, that's not port, now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. Hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it? What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port, that's not port, now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. Hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it? What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port, that's not port, now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. Trust me, I'm in control. Thank you for the song, my friends. I need to lay off the Zeus juice. Yes, you do, Matty. If you are on the Zeus juice, then you should definitely lay off of it. Alright, this next one is called Moby Duck. And it is about a sailor who retires to a lake, hoping that he'll get a little bit of reprieve, get a little bit of peace. But then it turns out that there is a great evil duck who besieges the folk there. Oh, Tyson, just the barkeeps, the schedule's changing around, so I'm meeting with the barkeeps on Saturday to go over that. Not a big deal. I'll baptize my brain with Athena juice. She's meant to be the voice of reason, that's the truth. After 14 years, I left the sea for a life upon a lake. After all the storms I'd seen, I needed a good break. I thought still waters would mean peace for me, but that was a mistake. For the place I chose was beguiled by a giant evil drake, a mallard of such malice twice the size of any man, a bill to give you nightmares and a monstrous wingspan. You cannot hope to fight it, so avoid him if you can. The terrifying waterfowl, the beast beyond the dam. Row with all your might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. I'm not one for surrender, so a vengeful oath I swore. I gathered up me hearties like so many times before. We shod our ship with weapons and prepared to go to war, till the fetid, feathered, fearsome flying duck would breathe no more. Row with all our might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. There was bonny brave Marie, who to her arms had waved goodbye, and handsome Jack, whose duck attack left him without an eye. The Darby twins with one leg each on deck were standing by. Only a couple dozen limbs between a crew of 25. Row with all our might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. The fight raged on for several hours, defend and then attack. With beating of those wicked wings, our boat began to crack. The beast reared up to finish the job, and with a mighty quack, I rammed my harpoon down his throat and made a tasty snack. Row us back to shore. We'll drag his broken body back and roast it on an oar. Row, barbecue the beast. With hoys and toast and pancakes, we'll have the biggest feast. Row ho, row with all our might. We rowed with harpoons loaded and spoiling for a fight. Row ho, row, we had all the luck. We won the day and did away the dreaded Moby Duck. We won the day and did away the dreaded Moby Duck. Thank you for the song, my friends. Absolutely lovely as always. Raise a glass for that. Alright, and then we had The Scotsman, The Sick Note, Valhalla Calling, and Misty Mountain. Well, you guys are wearing me out with songs tonight. Alright. You never heard that one before? Oh wait, this one is a new song. It is a new song, Milu. We've only done that one, I think, 3 or 4 times. I raise you pineapple people. Why you got to be misbehaving, Milu? Don't do that. Don't do it. Everyone's having fun. Don't ruin it. And by you, I mean, oh. It's one I came across a couple of weeks ago and was pleased to find the Castle Nude. It's so good. It's so good. I'm not a fan of hoisin sauce by itself. It goes with certain things, yeah. I don't spook easily by pineapple pizza. But look, I love you all. I don't want to have to look at you disappointed. So when you do things that you know I don't necessarily approve of, I try to look the other way and I pay attention to the good things about you all rather than the disappointing things. All right, let's do the Scotsman next because that one I always mess up. So we'll do that one next. What can I say? I like the waffles. We were at Costco the other day. Speaking of waffles, we were at Costco the other day and they had chicken and waffles pre-packaged, like big Belgian waffles and fried chicken pre-packaged. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. All right. Well, well, a Scotsman clad in kilt left the bar one evening fair. One could tell by how he walked, he'd drunk more than his share. He fumbled round until he could no longer keep his feet. Then he stumbled off into the grass, asleep beside the street. Ring ding diddly I-de-o, ring ding diddly I-ho-ho. He stumbled off into the grass to sleep beside the street. About that time 2 young and lovely girls just happened by. One says unto the other with a twinkle in her eye, "See yon sleeping Scotsman so strong and handsome built, I wonder if it's true what they don't wear beneath their kilts. Ring ding diddly I-de-o, ring ding diddly I-ho-ho. I wonder if it's true what they don't wear beneath their kilts." They crept up on that sleeping Scotsman quiet as could be, lifted up his kilt about an inch so they could see, and there behold for them to view beneath his Scottish skirt was nothing more than God had graced him with upon his birth. Ring ding diddly I-de-o, ring ding diddly I-ho-ho. Was nothing more than God had graced him with upon his birth. Masteriano, well, I'm glad we got 3 more coming your way. Welcome in. Okay, babe, just woke up. Is chapter 2 done? It is done. We just finished 2 songs ago. Oh, I forgot I made home sausage rolls the day before yesterday. They came out awesome. That sounds delicious, Bear. They marvelled for a moment, then one said, "We must be gone. Let's leave a present for a friend before we move along." They gifted, as a gift they left a blue silk ribbon tied into a bow. Around the bonny scar the Scotsman kilted lift and show. Ring ding diddly I-de-o, ring ding diddly I-ho-ho. Around the bonny star the Scotsman's kilted lift and show. Now the Scotsman woke to nature's call and stumbled towards the trees. Behind the bush he lifts his kilt and gawks at what he sees. And in the startled voice he says what's before his eyes. Aye, lad, I don't know where you've been, but I see you won first prize. Ring ding diddly I-de-o, ring ding diddly I-ho ho. Aye, lad, I don't know where you've been, but I see you won first prize. Thank you for the song, friends. What was it? Sick Note was the last one. Sick Note is one of my favorites because it is a brilliant song in the tradition of Irish songs where we have sad songs that we sing in a happy way and happy songs that we sing in a sad way. This particular version is by Pat Cooksey, and it goes by a couple of different titles. You had Why Paddy's Not at Work Today, The Bricklayer Song, Dear Boss, Paddy and the Barrel, Murphy and the Bricks. But it goes a little something like this. Dear sir, I write this note to you to tell you of me plight, for at the time of writing I am not a pretty sight. Me body is all black and blue, me face a deathly grey, and I write this note to say why Paddy's not at work today. Was working on the 14th floor, some bricks I had to clear. To throw them down from such a height was not a good idea. The foreman wasn't very pleased, him being an awkward sod. He says I'd have to cut them down the ladder in me hod. Now clearing all these bricks by hand it was so very slow, so I hoisted up a barrel and secured the rope below. But in me haste to do the job I was too blind to see that a barrel full of building bricks was heavier than me. So when I untied the rope, the barrel fell like lead. Still clinging tightly to the rope, I started up instead. I shot up like a rocket till to my dismay I found that halfway up I met the bloody barrel coming down. Well, the barrel broke me shoulder, as to the ground it sped, and when I reached the top I banged the pulley with me head. I clung on tightly, numb with shock from this almighty blow, as the barrel spilled out half the bricks some 14 floors below. Now, when these bricks had fallen from the barrel to the floor, I then outweighed the barrel and so started down once more, still clinging tightly to the rope, my body racked with pain. When halfway down I met the bloody barrel once again. The force of this collision halfway up the office block caused multiple abrasions and a nasty state of shock. Still clinging tightly to the rope, I fell towards the ground, and I landed on the broken bricks the barrel scattered round. As I lay there groaning on the ground, I thought I'd passed the worst, but the barrel hit the pulley wheel and then the bottom burst. A shower of bricks rained down on me, I hadn't got a hope. As I lay there bleeding on the ground, I let go the bloody rope. The barrel then being heavier, then started down once more, and landed right across me as we lay upon the floor. It broke 3 ribs in my left arm, and I can only say, I hope you'll understand why Paddy's not at work today. Thank you for the song, friends. Yes, Bear, Misty Mountain is on the roster. We're going to do Misty Mountain. No, I didn't forget. As soon as you asked, actually, I put it on there before you asked. If we're being technical, Esther. And then we all say collectively, poor Paddy. Yeah, poor lad. Always getting beat up out there. Just need Black Velvet Band added in. Let me see how I'm feeling after Valhalla Calling. And we may add Black Velvet Band in. I don't mind that. Because we still got a little bit of time. Yeah, we still got a little bit of time. Let's do Valhalla Calling. I like to end on Misty Mountain because it's nice and calm and it can send everybody off to sleep. It's a good ending song. All right. Now, there are certain disclaimers that come along with. No, don't today. Sorry, it was an addition. I hit send too soon. It's all right. It's all right. If I'm feeling up to it, we'll do it. I do feel bad that Tuesday had to be cut so short. So, Well, well, it'll make you sleepy for later on in the day, Esther. So the song we're doing next is Valhalla Calling. It's by a gentleman called The Miracle of Sound. You probably heard the song. It was very popular on TikTok. Became very famous a little while back. It's a sort of a Viking shanty in modern times. A very good song. Lots of people very much enjoy it. We sing it a little bit differently here in the tavern. So we sing the verses normally, but then when we get to the chorus, we do what is called throat singing, or sometimes referred to as druid song. Now, some people very much enjoy throat singing, and some people find it to be very grating. It has been known to cause disruption of the vascular and the lymphatic systems. It's been known to cause total shutdowns of the nervous system, temporary and permanent blindness. It has been known to cause bleeding of the eyes, ears, and gums, as well as spontaneous pregnancy and spontaneous combustion. So, if any of these symptoms develop after you have listened to Valhalla Calling here in the tavern, we cannot be held liable and we will not be held responsible for anything. The one thing that you will find about the tavern is we take responsibility for nothing. Oh my god, my aunt let me try her Gala account. I tried the sleep meditation on it. I was wide awake and I was asleep within 4 minutes. It was amazing, very good quality. Fascinating. I'll have to give it a look. Sometimes I have a hard time retired from pregnancy. Again, Matty gets pregnant all the time, so who knows? Just have to be careful. All right, here we go. Ships on the vigor of the waves are skimming, bearing summits to the verdant plains. Each horizon is a new beginning. Rise and reign. Far from the fjords and the ice-cold currents, ravens soar over new frontiers, songs and sagas of a fate determined, shields and spears, vows of favor or the thrill of plunder, pull together for the clan and kin, clank of hammers and the crash of thunder. Pound within. This is where you cover your ears if you're worried about side effects. Oh, the echoes of eternity. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Oh, to pluck the strings of destiny. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Valhalla calling me. Sails are swaying on the crimson rivers, blood and glory in the fighting fields. Shields are shattered into splintered timbers, iron and steel. Fires are rising and the bells are ringing. Glory, take us into Odin's halls. Golden glimmer and the sound of singing as God's call. Oh, the echoes of eternity. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Oh, to pluck the strings of destiny. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Valhalla calling me. Wind and the waves will carry me. Wind and the waves will set me free. Wind and the waves will carry me. Wind and the waves will set me free. Last time. Oh, the echoes of eternity. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Oh, to pluck the strings of destiny. Oh, Oh, Valhalla calling me. Valhalla calling me. Thank you for the song, my friends. Absolutely lovely. Raise a glass. Steam thinks I've been playing Guild Wars for 57 hours and won't start now. Thank you, Esther. I'm glad that you enjoyed. Stormy, hello, my friend. Welcome, welcome. All right, let's do Misty Mountain, and then if I'm feeling up to it after Misty Mountain, we'll do Black Velvet Band. And I'll send you all off to roam about the country. K-Baby, I'm very glad that you had fun. Now, K-Baby, remind me of your name. Remind me of your real name again. I know you told me, and I know it starts with a K. Kelsey. Okay, my brain remembered Kelsey, but I thought it might be Kristen. I was like, I don't want to get it wrong. So Kelsey, all right, I will remember. We haven't done that one in a while. That was rough. It was a little bit. It's been a while. And I was just sick last week, so my throat's still recovering, but still gotta practice. Alright, we're doing the Peter Hollins version of Misty Mountains, friends. Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate you, love. Alright. Hydrate, friends. Hydrate. Also, I'm doing a Sunreal scene after I walk my dog on stream. Spectacular. I do my best. I try. There are quite a few of the regulars now, but I try to remember all of the regulars' names or preferred names if I can. I'm an old man, though. It's hard for me to remember things. Thank you, Esther. I appreciate you. New hours at work usually go past your stream, but excited to catch you on. I'm glad that you made it in, Stormy. I'm very glad. Senior moments, yeah, absolutely. We don't sing well, we sing to have a good time. Damn right. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate you. Oh, sometimes. Sometimes young, sometimes old. All right. Let's sing the song of the dwarves of the lonely mountain. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away. Actually, my love. Ere break of day, to find a long forgotten gold. The pines were roaring on the height, the winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, it flaming spread. The trees like torches blazed with light. The wind was on the withered heath, but in the forest stirred no leaf. Their shadows lay, be night or day, and dark things silent crept beneath. The wind went on from west to east. All movement in the forest ceased, but shrill and harsh across the marsh, its whistling voices were released. Farewell we call to hearth and hall. The wind may blow and rain may fall. We must away ere break of day, far o'er the wood and mountain tall, far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find our long forgotten gold. Thank you for the song, my friends. Absolutely, always a pleasure. I do believe I am up to Black Velvet Band, if Milu would still like it. Milu and Matty, and I'm sure all of the rest, say hello. She's in the midst of building an 18th century settlement and not getting dysentery.
19th century. It's on the cusp of the change.
1800s, 19th century. No, you're correct. 19th century, not 18th. Every time we sing this, I imagine it echoing through the mines of Moria. I do too. Anytime I sing any of the music from Lord of the Rings, I always imagine it in the mines of Moria. Castle, as always, you provided wonderful rendition of Misty Mountain. Thank you, Castle. It's my pleasure, Esther. Always. I'm glad that you and Elsie enjoy. I'm absolutely ready, Milo. Let's get it. And Ashley also says hello to the beautiful lady. Just notice the fur covers your chair in excellent choice. Right, it's a sort of a furry throne of sorts. I'm happy to listen to more songs, especially ones that one, but I don't want to stress your voice. I should be alright. I'll have the whole weekend off. That's not true. Immediately after I'm done here, I have to go and record stories. I'll be alright though, I promise. I wouldn't push if I didn't think I could do it. Alright. One last song. Tyson also says hello. So does Esther and Elsie, and so does Kimian. You're getting hellos from the whole of the lot. And Matty says, I wish the lady luck on the Oregon Trail. No, it's called Anno 1800. It's a new Ubisoft game.
No, it's not new.
It's an old Ubisoft game. If not, I will have a new emote with a raised eyebrow just for you. Alright. Let us finish off with a final song. She's playing a game called Anno 1800, and it's essentially a settlement building game. She loves stuff like that. Anything that has economy or building or inventories or collecting, anything like that. Oh no, it's not Oregon Trail. It's called Anno 1800. She is quite obsessive about these sort of like empire building games, even her little ones. She plays one called Cozy Grove, and where all is that game available, Lovey? Is it just PlayStation?
It's for console and PC.
So you can get it on PS5 or on PC, Esther. It's on PlayStation or PC. Alright. Final song of the night, friends. There needs to be an updated version of Oregon Trail. They released an updated version of Oregon Trail a while back that had Eldritch Horrors in it. Now, obviously, that's not an updated version, but they did an Oregon Trail that had Eldritch Horrors in it. I'll have to find it. If I find it, I'll post it over in the guild. It is called. Here, I'll just enter it here. Is it ANNO 1800, Lovey? Anno 1800 is what it is called. Eldritch Trail, right, Stormy? You're playing Elvenar at the moment? I don't think I know what that is. I'm so out of the loop. Oh, is it? Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you go. I see. I'm always so buried in every I don't play games anymore. Not that I don't love to. I do. I just I'm always so busy with everything else. I don't ever stop and do it. That's why the lady keeps trying to Shanghai me into doing games with her on Monday and Wednesday, so that I'll take a break and do it. All right. Spyro is a classic. You can't get past. Spyro is wonderful. In a neat little town they call Belfast, apprentice to trade I was bound, and many an hour sweet happiness have I spent in this neat little town. A sad misfortune came over me, which caused me to stray from the land, far away from my friends and relations, betrayed by the Black Velvet Band. Oh, she said she plays it too, Bear. The game that you said you play. She said she plays it as well. Her eyes, they shone like diamonds. I thought her the queen of the land. And her hair, it hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. I took a stroll down Broadway, meaning not long for to stay, when who should I meet but this pretty fair maid came a-traipsing along the highway. She was both fair and handsome, her neck it was just like a swan's, and her hair it hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. Her eyes they shone like diamonds, I thought her the queen of the land, and her hair it hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. I took a stroll with this pretty fair maid, and a gentleman passing us by, Well, I knew she meant the undoing of him by the look in her roguish black eye. A gold watch she took from his pocket and placed it right into my hand. And the very first thing that I said was, "Bad cess to the black velvet band." Her eyes, they shone like diamonds. I thought her the queen of the land. And her hair, it hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. Before the judge and the jury, next morning I had to appear. And the judge, he said to me, "Young man, your case is proven quite clear. We'll give you 7 years penal servitude to be spent down in Van Diemen's Land, far away from your friends and companions, betrayed by the Black Velvet Band." Her eyes, they shone like diamonds. I thought her the queen of the land. And her hair, it hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. Thank you for the songs, my friends. Absolutely always lovely and always a pleasure to sing and story with you. Franco, hello and welcome in. So very glad that you could join us. I presume I'm not Ragnar. As you can see, I have no snake bites on me. But and I was never king of Norway or Denmark, or I didn't try to conquer England. To be fair, nowadays probably not much worth conquering in England anymore, but might get a nice castle. My friends, tonight was wonderful. Thank you all for spending the time with me this evening. To everyone who tipped the tavern keeper, thank you very much. We reached our goal over on TikTok. Thank you kindly for your generosity, my friends. It is deeply appreciated. Thank you, Castle, for the wonderful evening. Love to all. Thank you, Ashley, for holding up the bar over on TikTok for us. And to all the other barkeeps, thank you kindly for the work that you put in. To all of our regulars who have found themselves here in the tavern once again, thank you all for joining us. We should sing My Bonnie next week. We'll give it a go. We'll give it a go, Tyson. Wondering if you have Spanish ladies in line for next time I make it. Yeah, certainly. We can do Spanish ladies next time, Marina. No trouble at all. Cheers, Castle. Another wonderful afternoon. Thanks, mate. Always, Bear. Thank you so much. See my above comments about Irish builders? I did not see your above comments about Irish builders, but Irish builders are pretty... I can't get up that far. I'll have to scroll up after we're done then. Christy Restwell, thank you kindly. To all of our barkeeps, thank you so much. To all of the regulars who show up all the time and drink us out of house and home, I appreciate you. Plant Medic, I didn't see that come in, but thank you for the I heart you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you kindly for the generosity. I did not catch your question, Matty. What was the question? Would it be okay to post my AI-generated character concepts? Yeah, that's fine. Just make sure people know they're AI, because people do tend to get upset about that. I don't mind it as long as you're not selling it. I don't mind if you do it to develop concepts. So, I've got nothing against it. But yeah, certainly. Throw them up, Matty. No trouble at all. And to everyone who tipped the tavern keeper tonight, thank you kindly. Your generosity helps keep the door open. And to everybody who sits and watches, we appreciate you. It is because of you that the lady and I get to do what we do, and we love getting to do it. So thank you so much for that. Thank you all for being here. The lady will be back on Sunday to bring you more spectacular stories, and we cannot wait to see you then. So, my friends, until the next time that the portals open into the tavern, I will bid you stay bloodthirsty, and we will see you next time. Good night.
Then it stopped altogether. I think Charlie imagines it's what a roller coaster would feel like. Black Dragon, welcome in, welcome, welcome. Path of the Storm, thank you for the